Did everybody online hear that, do you think, or should I repeat that?
Sorry, I'm not hearing you the first time.
Okay. Stand by. Yeah, every time you try to repeat it, it's not as good, right? It's like you got that one time to like nail it, but then if you repeat, you think about it too much. So.
Oh, because he has the microphone.
Okay, yeah. You can hear me now? Okay. Yes, okay, good.
Can they hear me?
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, good, all right. If not, online folks, I'll repeat what Tanil just said, but if you heard good, okay. All right, so today our training, guys, is about buy-in and burnout. It sounds like a bad restaurant, maybe. But that's the only title I could come up with, so that's what I did. So really what we're going to do today is just talk about the 10 tools in the toolkit, the Sanctuary Toolkit. Obviously, yesterday we really reviewed other parts of the model, spent a lot of time in supervision and coaching yesterday afternoon, and today we'll talk about the toolkit pretty in depth. So I did have a review section in here still for the first 3 pillars of the model, just for anybody who may not have been here yesterday. So for some of you guys, that'll probably be a little bit of a repeat, but we'll still do it, it'll be good. So here we go. And by the way, we're not going to start with the community meeting, only because we're going to do that as part of our training later when we get to the community meeting. So, and since there's, here live, we'll just have one, since there's just a few of us, that'll be fun. Okay, here we go. All right, so just as a quick review for folks in the room, folks online, we have 4 pillars in the Sanctuary model: trauma theory, 7 commitments, self, and our subject today, the Sanctuary Toolkit. So. And trauma theory, as you guys will remember, that just given us the framework and the language for the ability to talk about trauma. And understanding that we've all experienced trauma, it's a universal concept, and that's different for each one of us. So it may be traumatic to me, maybe to Neil, not to you, not to you, not to you, and it can be different for every single person. And it's based again on our experiences and things we've come from. I used the example yesterday of COVID being a universal trauma. Sanctuary, we're based out of New York, so whenever we're trained up there, we talk a lot about 9/11. Of course, that was universal trauma for everybody, especially for people in that community. And even 25 years on, that is obviously something that's significant for everyone, because that really kind of changed the course of the world. So those big, like, worldwide events, we can point to those as universal traumas, versus more individual things that could be regional or just things that happen to us individually. So example, I was telling Tanil when I arrived in Detroit the other day, I flew into Detroit and drove down here. My luggage did not get there. It actually ended up in St. Louis. So I got to hang out in the Detroit airport for about 6 hours waiting for the next flight to get there so I could get my luggage. And I see people kind of shaking their heads and thinking like, oh my God, yeah. And this, for me, it wasn't that big of a deal. Was it annoying? Yes, because I didn't get here till midnight, 1 o'clock, and it was just kind of a long day. But it just was what it was. It happens as part of the travel lifestyle. You also have things like that can happen to folks who can impact them pretty significantly. Maybe if you lost something very important once in your life, or had some kind of travel delay that was very impactful to an important life event, that could be something that could really throw your day off. And whether you're someone who that bothers or it doesn't bother, there's no scale there for right or wrong. It's just the fact things impact us all differently. So trauma theory just encourages us to be curious about that, to be okay with that, and to recognize that everybody's impacted differently and how that makes them feel. We talked yesterday, you guys who were yesterday, how it impacts our bodies, the way we carry our trauma, the way we carry our stress. That's different for every single person also. So we want to just be okay with that, accepting of that, and be aware that everybody's going to have different responses to basically every single thing that happens to us. So that's staff, clients, everybody. And I don't think I showed this slide yesterday, but this is kind of our visual for our actual definition of trauma. And this comes from the work of Dr. Bessel van der Kolk. So those of you who have heard that name, probably most people, he's still alive, I'm pretty sure. He's a researcher who was really at the front line of trauma work and trauma theory. He wrote that book, The Body Keeps Score. A lot of you may have heard of that. It's kind of a textbook for trauma. If you haven't read it, I do recommend it, but in small pieces. It's very heavy. It's a lot of science, social worky, type stuff, which it's phenomenal. But it's a pretty heavy read. So if you ever get around to reading that, maybe kind of take it in chunks. But anyway, he kind of based his work off of the research of Dr. Steven Silver, who back in the 1960s and 70s was working with Vietnam veterans who were returning from, the war that they were a part of over there. And for those of you who are, aware of that history, That was kind of the first time in United States history that veterans were not getting the same kind of welcome home that they got. So soldiers returning from World War I, World War II, the Korean War, they were brought home as heroes and recognized, okay, these guys they did great things, let's celebrate them, thank you for keeping us free and all the things that they did and the sacrifices they made. Whereas because of the controversy surrounding the Vietnam War, sometimes soldiers were not treated well at all when they returned home. And just, actually horrible things. People would throw things at them as they got off the plane, say horrible things like baby killer and things like this. And so soldiers did not come back to a safe place. They came back from trauma to more trauma. And so because of that, that's when like Dr. Steven Silver and the others who worked with him started to really kind of recognize, okay, there's this thing, they didn't really know what it's called. Eventually we call it now PTSD. They kind of came up with this term and this idea and really kind of made that concrete in the work, in our field of work. So anyway, Steven Silver, then Dr. Bessel van der Kolk were kind of the front line of what we today understand as trauma theory, trauma informed and all these different things. And so our definition that you guys can see there on the screen comes from the work of van der Kolk. And it's, traumatization occurs when an external event overwhelms our internal resources and external supports. So just think about that for a second. There's a lot to unpack there. I like the visual that we have because it really kind of helps bring it home. So an external event, we already gave examples of what that could be. It could be losing your luggage. It could be a terrorist act. Could be just this week we've seen more violence in the city of Minneapolis. Lives have been lost. So things are going on that are very serious and are impacting people in real ways. Those are the external events. Someone give me an example of what an internal resource would be, or an internal support. Something that you have inside you that can help you in a time of stress or crisis.
Safety plan.
Absolutely, yeah, sure. So your safety plan, say?
Coping mechanism.
Coping mechanism, okay, yeah, what's a coping mechanism? Give me an example.
Deep breaths,
Mm-hmm.
knowing how to regulate your emotions.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely, yeah. What else, anybody?
Coping mechanism?
Yeah, just more examples of coping mechanisms. Say it again.
Going for a run.
Going for a run, there you go, yeah, okay, that's one of my big ones, yeah. So I was talking to some of the folks here, I'm a runner, so I do that almost every single day. That's a big one for me. What else?
Prayer. A lot of people pray.
That's true, absolutely. So prayer, religious beliefs, you're adherence to a higher power, whatever that is for you, absolutely. What about, is this a coping mechanism, yes or no? Every day after work, I go to the bar and stay there for a few hours. Okay. I go home from work every day because I'm really stressed out, and I yell at my wife and kids all night. Is that a coping mechanism? Yeah, and like you kind of said, it's not necessarily a healthy one, but it is a coping mechanism. So when we're talking about this, and when you guys are also training this to your folks, it's really important to differentiate between, positive coping mechanisms and negative ones. And, again, this could be maybe a touchy topic sometimes because we all have things we do that probably aren't super healthy for us, but we just do it because we're humans and it makes us feel good, right? But whatever. But it's important to, to differentiate between those because if an internal resource or a coping mechanism is not something that, is going to counteract that external event, it'll add to it. So for example, if my coping mechanism is to go home and drink a 12-pack every night, okay, that makes me feel good, but that probably is actually helping me with the trauma or stress I dealt with. It might be enhancing that actually. So differentiating again between positive and negative coping mechanisms is a good idea. Okay, and then what about external supports? What do you guys think those might be?
Insurance, credit card,
Okay.
second car. I don't know.
Okay, yeah. That's an example of them, sure, yeah. What else when you think about things that, again, let me reframe that. Something that's going to positively help you with a stressful or traumatic event. What's an external support system you could use? Family, community, counseling, friends. Yeah, absolutely. And that's generally what we think about when we give examples for that specific thing. Who are the people in your life, who can be there for you if you need that help? And it's also important to point out and recognize sometimes you're going to have, clients, maybe even staff members who really don't have that external support. And that can be a very difficult situation, so we want to be compassionate about that, empathic towards that, and also see if we can help people identify. I'm sure that's a lot of the work that you guys do here, right? Helping people figure out who's their support system, who can they go to when they need help, instead of, resorting back to, the difficult things they've been through. So I'm sure that is very close to what you guys do here. So just keep that in mind as you're talking about this with folks and train that. But that's just kind of a good way to kind of sum up what, trauma is. And yeah, no, of course.
Looks like the comments are working on the YouTube. So
Great.
we've got other people who have said faith and self-talk,
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
friends, family, therapy, partners, friends.
Okay, hey, folks online, thank you. We're getting your comments. So faith, family, friends, other support systems, thanks for chiming in. Appreciate that. Keep those coming. We'll shout those out as we're going through this. That's great. Okay, so yeah, so that's trauma. That's our first pillar. And within that, obviously, there's so much more, and you guys have all received this training, but that's where we talk about the ACEs survey and the impact of that, all the different complex concepts, parallel process, collective disturbances, vicarious trauma, which we'll talk about vicarious trauma a little bit today as part of, the toolkit, because some of the things we have in the toolkit obviously are meant to specifically counteract the idea of vicarious trauma. So we'll revisit that again. But when you do the full training, you obviously guys get all that, but that's just a taste of flavor for what's a part of that. Okay, then of course our commitments. I know that you guys are very well versed in these. I see these actually pasted on the wall around here, which I think is really, really cool. I love that you guys have that visual. And just so you guys know too, when you do your recertification visit here in a few months, those visuals are really what the people are going to want to see, the certifiers. And I will talk about that more later, Neil. But anytime you have any kind of visual, like just as a reminder, there's a couple positives to that. One, it just again shows, hey, this is Sanctuary, this is what we're about. But also, it helps, that muscle memory. Anytime I see something on the wall that makes me think about Sanctuary, that just, the commitments, or here's what a community is, or whatever it is. Anytime you can have those artifacts, those visuals, that's great for the staff, for the clients, for everybody. So the more of that, the better, and I love seeing that. That's great. But anyway, so just briefly, we'll go through the commitments. I know for those of you who were here yesterday, we've done this like 3 times now, but practice makes perfect. All right, so somebody tell me about nonviolence. What is that?
Creating safe spaces for yourself and others.
That's right. And can someone say what the 4 different types of safety that we like to talk about in Sanctuary are?
You go, Carol. Social, psychological, and more.
That's it, yeah. You were the one who said that yesterday, so thanks, ma'am. You got my back. I appreciate that. But that's right. And we will revisit those more in depth when we get to safety plans here in a little bit as part of the toolkit, so not going to go any deeper than that right now. But yeah, so nonviolence is all about creating safety. And, again, I kind of started out talking about this yesterday. Oh, we always want a safe place. We can kind of throw that term around kind of like loosely sometimes. But when we're sincerely thinking about creating a safe place, that's why we have all those different modes of safety. Because from a psychological and an emotional and physical perspective, there's different things that make me feel safe. So I'm standing in this room right now in front of you guys. I may be a little nervous because I'm talking in front of people, but I feel physically safe right now. There's nothing around me that might feel threatening to me. I can see the whole room. I got plenty of space. But if you think about someone who maybe they're boxed in a very tight space. For some people, that can really stress them out, right? And so that could be an example of a lack of physical safety. Something that I used to deal with when I worked with foster kids. I told you guys before, most of my career work before coming to Sanctuary was with foster youth in the state of Texas. When kids come into foster care, they don't necessarily have a lot with them. Sometimes they're able to bring a few things. Sometimes they come with their clothes in their back or less. It can be a very sad situation. And so obviously kids, over the time they're in foster care, they begin to accrue possessions, items, just like any other kid. They have their stuff, they have their room. And sometimes I'd have staff members who, when it was time to, if a kid got in trouble for something, well, first thing we're gonna do, let's take their stuff away. Okay, and, sure, but let me just ask you guys, how do you think that went for a kid who never had anything and to be punished by having their items taken away?
Not good.
No, it did not go well. And that too can be a violation of physical safety. So not only physical safety, me and my space, but it can also extend to my things. These things that are mine that are important to me. And if those are violated, that can also be a violation of my physical safety. So just something to think about, maybe for your clients, maybe anybody else you work with, that can be a pretty significant trigger for folks sometimes. And we may not even realize that we're doing that. So just something to think about. And of course, emotional safety, that's pretty on par with the work you guys do. And so making sure people in their minds are safe with themselves, with others. And social and moral safety, that's just being aware of, giving people the space to do the right thing, to feel like they're a part of the group and not ostracized, things like that. Emotional intelligence, we like to talk about that, just being aware of my emotions, so that I don't hurt myself or others with those emotions. And again, there's just the responsibility there to not trying to control others or make others better or fix them. We all love to do that, right? We kind of had this discussion with the group yesterday. As social workers, a lot of us are rescuers, and so the first thing we want to do is see how we can help fix people. But the simple truth is, I cannot fix anybody besides myself. And so that emotional intelligence just kind of gives us a gentle reminder about that. Somebody tell me about social learning. What is that all about? Yeah. When you've just had enough of talking to everybody, that's what social learning is? Okay. That could be an aspect of social learning. I appreciate that, man. Okay. Not quite the sanctuary definition of it, but I like that. Somebody else, what's social learning?
Being open to the input and ideas from other people.
That's it. Yeah, exactly. Even if you're done talking to them, and that's okay too, because when you're done talking, that's good. You walk away, man. I'm with you on that. Because I'll tell you guys real talk for a second. You know, I do this all day, every day. So, you know, I'm actually a pretty introverted person, believe it or not. So when I get back to the hotel at the end of the day, I'm just like, oh, because this is emotionally exhausting. And I don't say that in a negative way, because I love my work. I love doing this. I love talking about Sanctuary. I love being here with you guys. But the emotional toll that takes on you. So yeah, by the end of the day, I'm with you. It's time to unplug and not talk to people for a while. But from a Sanctuary perspective, social learning, absolutely, that's exactly right. Just, you know, being open to other people's ideas and input. Because so often when we're part of a team, and we'll talk about this when we get to team meetings here in a little bit as part of the toolkit, we can get very, you know, narrowly focused. If we're in a hurry, we're busy, we're rushed. Okay, here's guys, here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna do this, and maybe not take the time to listen to our teammates. And more often than not, the best ideas we have are going to come from those around us. I'm not as smart as all of us are, so that's social learning. Open communication. We like to define that as saying being, I want to say it backwards, meaning what you say, but not being mean as you say it. And I think I shared with the group before too. I'm a pretty direct person, so that's one that's continued work for me, because I just kind of say what I think and just put it out there. And I've had to kind of learn that even though I know what I meant and my intention was good, sometimes people are like, dang, man, that was really harsh, or that was just really intense. So learn to dial it back a little bit. Maybe the way I say it, my tone of voice, my inflection, things like that. And I'm sure you guys are aware of that too, because obviously when you're interacting with a client, the way you come at them, the way you speak to them can either make or break their situation. And that can be, again, in things like tone of voice. How loud am I being? What is the appropriate tone and volume for the situation? So all that plays into that. Social responsibility, very close to social learning, but just again, you know, just recognize that I'm part of a team here. And so I have the responsibility to you like you do to me to make sure that I'm practicing these things that I've been taught from a trauma-informed perspective, so that I am not, you know, being mean in the way I speak, or that I'm not, you know, violating someone's safety. So just being aware of all those things being rolled up together. Democracy, the idea of, you know, shared governance. Everybody has a say, not everybody gets to make a decision. We kind of talked about this quite a bit yesterday with the other group. And just, you know, being aware that, being okay with that, I should say. Because sometimes we all tend to think that, you know, well, my opinion matters, and of course our opinions do matter, but at the end of the day, someone does have to make a decision. And hopefully, again, a good leader is going to be informed to make decisions based off of the thoughts and input of them around them, practicing that social learning. And last of all, growth and change. We just like to talk about that from the aspect of hope and future. Just making sure that when doing this, we're actually providing that to our clients, to our staff, to ourselves. And that can be a difficult thing sometimes based on the clientele you work with, based on where they've come from, based on where you individually, the traumas you've experienced. So growth and change is the goal, and it's a one day at a time process. It's not one of my coworkers likes to say it like this. She says, it's a journey, not a destination, and I really appreciate that. Because growth and change is hopefully something we'll be trying to attain every day of our lives in some way. If we ever feel like we've got there, then we might kind of be missing the point a little bit. So that's the idea behind that. Anything else on the commitments? I know for a lot of you guys, this is the third time in 2 days, so.
Funny story, I just went to go put your lunch in the refrigerator
Okay.
downstairs, and there's a big sign that says, "It is our social responsibility to keep this refrigerator clean."
Amen. So much truth there, that's right, absolutely, yeah. I don't know if you guys have ever heard this, but sometimes I work with a lot of organizations. People will tell me stories where people are weaponizing sanctuary. And actually, I have a story at an agency like, there was this thing about the fridge and the microwave is never clean. And so someone left a very passive-aggressive sign on the microwave that essentially said, "You're not practicing sanctuary. Be more social responsible. Clean up after yourselves." And it became this whole thing because they don't know who did it. It was just this, were they right? Yeah, but just the way they came at it wasn't necessarily obviously the most positive and right way. But in my discussion with this group, someone made the comment, "Well, that just wasn't very sanctuary." Have you guys ever heard somebody say that? You're not being very sanctuary. Yeah, okay, so that's a real thing, right? It can be traumatic, absolutely. And so obviously that's probably not something we want to say. If we're taking trauma-informed practice and using that as a weapon, we're obviously totally missing the point. So I guess let me just ask then. So if someone says that to you, what's your response? Someone says, "Well, that's not very sanctuary." How would you respond to that?
I just kind of stuttered.
I typically ask them, what's your perspective of what sanctuary is?
Oh, okay. I like that, Cheryl. Yeah.
And it allows them to have some motivation to say, well, I prefer it to be this way, you know.
Sure. Who doesn't?
Appreciate your comment.
Okay. All right. That's one way. I like that. What else? What do you guys think? Someone says, "Well, that's not very sanctuary." How would we respond to that?
I think I would just ask, why do you think that?
Okay. Be curious.
Yeah.
Yeah. Good.
We've gotten that from a management perspective.
Mhm.
Sometimes the line staff will feel that way.
Sure.
And so I think a lot of it is not necessarily just immediately going back and arguing the point, but maybe helping them understand whatever they feel wasn't sanctuary, what if it was a policy change, something, it's more communication around whatever is causing some sort of unrest
Sure.
to resolve it. So when at least the executive team has had that kind of spit out before, that's usually the approach is before being very quick to argue, well, actually, this is why it's sanctuary. It's more so just, I think, getting to the root cause of whatever is really upsetting that person and then working through that.
I love that you said that, and I would agree with that. And this is not just with that kind of comment. This isn't sanctuary, but typically when anybody has some kind of like frustrating outburst or saying something, we're looking for the message behind the message, right? So and for that person, who put that sign on the microwave, the agency I was telling you about, it probably wasn't actually about the microwave. Maybe there was like some kind of lack of control going on there. Maybe they felt like they didn't have the ability to speak up or something. And so this is how I'm going to assert my power. We talked about that some yesterday, right? The importance of like recognizing power and how that plays out. Yes, sir.
So the time that was said to me that sticks out to me, was with a staff member who was basically doing something completely different than the way I asked it to be done, right? Like specific reasons why they needed to do something a certain way, and then there was no communication. When I called, I said, "Hey, why was this done this way?" That was the response. She felt attacked. And I think later on in the dynamic of our work relationship, I found out that a lot of the way she took things was due to the dynamic of her relationship with her father.
Wow.
And I was a man
Wow.
in a power authority over her, right?
Yeah.
I didn't yell at her or anything like that. I just asked a question.
Sure.
So sanctuary, you be sanctuary, but still be accountable, right?
Absolutely.
And sanctuary to hold you accountable, or even to just ask why is this not being done the way it was supposed to be done. But
That's a great example. I appreciate you sharing that. So for folks online, what he just shared, like he had a staff member who was having some issues and he asked why it wasn't being done the way that it needed to be done. And that person reacted pretty negatively, and it turned out because she was basically feeling like you were acting like her father in some way, and that was a negative relationship. And that's such a great example because that can happen all the time. And more often than not, it's completely unconscious. And I know this happened to me many times. I'm sure each of you experienced that in some way. Someone just says something, and you can't even tell why, but it's like, wow, that just rubs you the wrong way. And then if we don't really stop and think about it, use our safety plan, things like that, we just react. And we have some kind of comeback comment or something like that. So great example. And again, just like when we're talking about the importance of using sanctuary, is trying to find out that message behind the message. And so especially planning our commitments, that can be very helpful. Yeah.
The latter, I do this with kids a lot. I'm not sure I do it with adults, but I always ask, kids are always the one that's in trouble.
Right.
I always ask them, what happened here? That's what I say too.
I love it.
What happened?
I love it.
No, usually they're in trouble, like
Mm-hmm.
a child will be being potty trained.
Oh, okay.
And I'm pretty upset about it or whatever, and I might say something, and they're just like, they're standing right there, and they go to the bathroom, and I'm like, what happened? What's happening here? And then the child look at me like, the child is in trouble in their mind.
Sure.
Look, I just want to know what happened. What's going on? Why you ain't running to the bathroom?
Well, I love that you share that, and that goes straight back to this the idea of going back to trauma theory. We talk about this all the time, right? We don't want to say what's wrong, but it's what happened, and even in everyday situations like that, just even the different wording. Of course, they may still be like, oh gosh, but hearing what's wrong. That again, like we talked about yesterday, that just activate all those parts of the brain: shame, fear, all the different things, because the idea of wrong, that the connotation of that word, versus what's happened, that can be much more just hey, what happened? What's going on here?
Do the animation, though. It don't work without the animation.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, that's right. What happened? that's exactly right. Yeah.
Do the animation.
That's great. Yeah. For those of you who are online didn't see it, that was some great, acting out going on right there. So that was good. So.
We do have one comment.
Okay. Yeah.
That I would review the situation, and if it's not sanctuary, I would tell you're correct, and it should have been handled in a different manner, and find a common ground to move forward.
Oh, I love that. Thank you online whoever gave that comment about finding common ground to move forward if someone isn't being sanctuary. I like that a lot. And obviously that's pretty foundational to the model too. You guys obviously been trained in this, you understand that. So using the commitments to find, that common place we can work from can actually get us really far. That's great. I love it. Okay, anything else on the commitments? Good discussion, love it. Okay. Oh, then we just have this visual. We kind of talk this out, so I won't spend too much time here. But I just like this visual here, like, this idea that the commitments are being balanced on this teeter-totter or fulcrum or whatever you want to call that. So if I was to come, pull one of these out, it would tilt to the side, and it wouldn't be properly balanced anymore. Yesterday, for those folks who are here, you remember I used the analogy of the commitments are like a pie. You want all the ingredients to make sure it tastes good. Same kind of thing here, just a different analogy. We're not going to have the proper balance, and if we take one out, they're all going to fall over. So to maintain that symbiotic relationship with all the commitments, it's important they're all practiced equally. And of course, that's a goal and that's an ideal. Do all of us practice our commitments perfectly all the time? I sure don't. I know I'm not capable of doing that. I don't do that very well sometimes. But being aware of that, and just that's kind of like the visual we like to show to kind of inspire, I guess. Okay, and then our third pillar, self. We talked about this a bit yesterday also, especially for those folks who are of the first training. We spent quite a bit of time. We did a practice self. We won't do that today. But safety, emotions, loss, future, that's our framework and our language for problem solving. For a group yesterday, I gave everybody some different hypotheticals. That was kind of fun in some ways, maybe a little activating for some folks. But just use hypothetical situations and work through self with how to solve that. I guess I'm just curious, for you folks and online as well. Do you guys actually use self on a pretty consistent basis as part of your teams you're working? What does that look like? What? Really? Okay. Yeah. Awesome. Okay. Right. Awesome. So what's an example of what something you guys would use self for?
Recovery house, we did a self, that actually had a death over there.
Oh, man.
It was, an employee/resident.
Dang.
I remember exactly what the issue was. It was natural causes, like the first thing that people think is overdose, and that's happened as well.
Sure.
But we did a self with like the whole team,
Mm-hmm.
the team that can make it, just to, process that.
Wow.
And I think it was very helpful.
Yeah, that's a powerful use of it for sure. Wow. What else? What do you guys use self for?
Someone, if we that leaves their position or quits.
I love that.
Do a self. How are you feeling about that?
Yeah, that's great. I just love the acknowledgement because so often when someone leaves a job or a resident leaves, people are like, okay, well, they're gone. And just think about the void that leaves in people's lives, you know? So that acknowledgement is huge. Really appreciate that. What else?
Sometimes, like I've been on teams where we'd self like the past year. Like
Okay,
the
nice.
past year and plan for the future.
It's almost kind of like a vision board or something like that using self. That's awesome. I like that. That's very cool. One way we used it in my old organization, I was telling you guys about the group residential home I ran in Texas for many years. Very close to what you were talking about, man. Anytime someone left, whether it was a kid who got discharged because they got to go home, of course that's the ideal. Sometimes people, were discharged from the program because of bad behavior, things like that. That also happened. And then also when a staff member left, either again retired, moved on to a different job, people get fired. All those things obviously happen. But every single time, we decided we'd get our entire campus together, and we had a little chapel on our campus. It was a religious organization. And so we'd get ready together in the chapel, usually do it after school, because the kids all went to school off campus. But, I mean, if we were doing it today. So on a Friday afternoon, we'd get everybody on the campus together, and we'd have what we called a loss ceremony, and just gave everybody a chance just to say whatever they wanted to say. And sometimes it got interesting, because, if you give kids a chance to not be filtered, they're not going to be filtered because they know they're not going to get in trouble for saying what they want to say. And so you have some colorful language, some pretty, some expressive outbursts, I guess is a diplomatic way to say that. But we were encouraged by our sanctuary consultant at the time because we were going through the process of becoming, a sanctuary certified organization. Just ride with it, see how it goes. And there were some people pretty nervous about it. Again, being a religious organization, some people were kind of offended by, how animated it got at times. But we kept doing it, and I'll tell you what, that is something that just became a very important part of our entire community. And again, no matter the reason, if somebody left, good, bad, whatever, we all got together, and we didn't do it long, it was maybe 30 minutes. But just be able to put that out there and just get it out. It's kind of like getting the poison out and just getting the frustration out. And we found just from that, we didn't have nearly as many problems with kids acting out. Because, anytime, I'm sure you guys experience this too with your clients. Maybe I know you don't deal with children as much, but if someone leaves, that disrupts the entire, situation, right? So you're going to have people who are going to act out or act differently. Same thing with a staff member. And so we found we were having less disruptions, less acting out after people were discharged. The staff felt just more calm and steady because, it's the first thing that happens when a staff member leaves. We're like, oh, what happened? Am I next? People get nervous. Like, why did so-and-so leave? Why were they fired? What happened? So it causes anxiety everywhere. So just having that small ceremony was great for us. I'm not necessarily suggesting that for you guys, but I'm just giving an example of how we practice sanctuary. That was great for us. So that was an incredible use of self. And we did those all the time, sometimes weekly. And we didn't have kids leave that often, but every once in a while, it felt like it. But anyway, so self, great tool. Sounds like you guys use that a lot, so that's awesome. We'll talk about this a little bit more when we get to self-treatment planning, which is what part of the toolkit. And I'll be interested to hear about how you guys do that here. So we'll get there in a bit. Okay, yeah, just again, kind of sum up what we talked about. Self's a great way to, organize that complex thought. It's nonlinear. So much like the commitments, they're not in order. We talked about this before. They're just kind of there because they all fit together and there's not a hierarchy. It's the same thing with self. Of course, for the sake of the acronym, it's SELF, but you can really practice these in any order. And I think it was you yesterday, man, when you guys were practicing self. Like, we actually started the future. And I love that. So especially if we're having a really serious problem that we don't quite know how to deal with, start with where we want to get to and then build from there. But I'm sure since you guys do self so often, you probably see this all the time. You don't be talking about safety issues, but then somebody jumps to a loss or then starts expressing some emotions. And that's completely okay. That's why we have it designed in this, I'm losing my term, Venn diagram. That's why we have it in that, because it's not this linear thing. And that's what I think also helps make it so effective. Yeah, so again, gets everybody on the same page. And that last point is very, very important. It's for everybody who's a part of the organization because it allows everybody to have a voice at the table. So we talked about this some yesterday, but if at all possible, I highly encourage you to make sure that you have clients who are part of the self. If they're whoever the problem, quote unquote, person is that you're there to talk about, if that's why you're having the self, make sure they're there too if that's a safe and appropriate situation, because they too should have a chance to express their perspective. And again, that makes people feel heard, makes the model more real and relevant to them. So everyone who is a part of the situation should be involved in the self. Okay, and that kind of brings us to the toolkit, which again is, the purpose of our time here together today. That's all 10 of them. I'm not going to go through them right now because we'll do that in depth as we go throughout the rest of our training. But just wanted to give you that visual and remind you that we do have 10 different tools in the toolkit. And from a recertification perspective, again, here in about 6 months, you guys are going to be looking to get recertified in the model, which I have no doubt you guys are going to do that just fine because you guys are living and breathing sanctuary here. There's no question about that. The reviewers who come in and are a part of that process, they'll definitely review each one of these and want to see, examples of this. I talked to the team about this some yesterday. So like for supervision example, we talked about this, we were talking about supervision and coaching yesterday. They're going to want to see like supervision notes to prove this is actually happening. And I'll say to you guys, just like I did to the group yesterday, if you didn't write it down, it didn't happen. So with everything that you're doing, as much as possible, make sure you have some kind of documentation of that. If you've been doing that ongoing, that's going to be a lot easier than trying to throw it all together at the last minute. But either way, as long as you just have documentation to prove that these things are taking place and you can show, yeah, we're doing supervision, we do service planning, we have red flags when appropriate, everybody has a self-care plan, all those different things. And so we'll talk about that as we go through these. Okay, so to really get us diving into this though, because again, our topic today is the toolkit to help with buy-in and burnout. I want to ask you guys to take a minute, and does everybody have a blank piece of paper in front of them, like to doodle on? Yes? Okay. And online, if you can find yourself maybe just kind of a blank piece of paper, maybe some colored pencils, something to do some artistic stuff with. This isn't the same thing as yesterday, for those of you who are here. We're not going to draw pictures of our ideal supervisor. But I just want to give you a few minutes to really think about this. What is it that you believe in? And I don't necessarily mean like, what higher power do you believe in? If that's part of it, please include that. I'm not talking about necessarily religious beliefs, but what is it that drives you? What is it that, makes you get up in the morning? What is it that makes you come to work? What is it that, gets you through life? Because we all have those things that are important to us. It could be our job, it could be our family, it could be certain hobbies, it could be any number of things. So on that blank piece of paper you have, I want you to take a few minutes, and you can make a list, you can doodle something, you can do an artistic representation, whatever you want to do. But I'm going to give you a few minutes to just kind of contemplate what is it that you believe in and why. And I want you to, represent that in that piece of paper in whatever way is most meaningful to you. Maybe in a way that you might hold on to this later and keep this as a reminder. And if you don't, that's fine. I'm not going to know. As soon as I leave, you can throw this away if you want. But spend a few minutes and just, what do you believe in and why? And we'll go from there. So, since this is kind of a smaller, more intimate group, I'm actually going to ask some people if you're willing to kind of share out and maybe just kind of talk to us about what is it you wrote, what is it you drew, and why do you believe what you believe? So, anybody feel free. Anybody online can chime in too if you want. We can read it out, but.
So, what I believe in is the potential and
Ah.
the belief that there's good in this world,
Hmm.
and you have to find it sometimes, and you have to embrace it and celebrate the good things you're doing.
Hmm.
And you also have to see that there's always opportunities for improvement and opportunities for growth
Hmm.
and change in how you approach it. As you get older, I feel that my role, my social responsibility becomes more about developing people and coaching them to say, why are we in this field? Why are we doing what we're doing?
Hmm.
And the difference we make. We come to work and we make differences in people's lives.
Yeah.
Right? That's what's rewarding and fulfilling.
Wow.
We find their potential, we see their opportunities, and we coach them to see new beginning.
Hmm.
So, when you look at what do you believe in, I believe in human potential
Hmm.
and all the good things that we can do to make a difference. Not only for the individual that come through our doors, I think sometimes we forget about the families
Wow.
that we provide. When I think we house almost 200 people a night, and we know that their family can at least go to sleep and say they have a safe place to lay their head.
Mm-hmm.
That's such a relief to families.
Mm-hmm.
And then to help them get better and make them move forward. You gotta find that.
Hmm.
This field will burn you out.
Wow.
So.
And that's the exact topic we're here today to talk about, buying and burnout. So that's perfect. Thank you. So, folks online, what he just said, he was talking about his belief in the potential of humans, the good things of the world, and how that ties directly to the work you guys do here, as far as helping people, find their potential and rise above, and talked about, just the satisfaction knowing that people have a safe place to stay at night and how they can help their families also. So, thank you. Yeah, go ahead, man.
So I kind of had some of the same stuff, but goodness in people.
Mm.
But then on the flip side of that too, for like a personal, maybe a personal safety, is trusting people to be who they are,
Mm.
not who I want them to be, right?
Wow.
Which goes into realistic expectations as
Wow.
well. I believe
Yeah.
all of that, right? So I believe every person is capable of good and bad. I believe that part because I've been on those,
Mm.
I mean, we all have, I think.
Mm-hmm.
We've all done things we're proud of and things we're not so proud of. And the levels of those things can change based on circumstances,
Mm.
and our choices and where we lead ourselves in life, I think. But yeah, big thing for me is realistic expectations and then just trusting people to be who they are, not who I want them to be. And that's something that I had to really kind of hone in on.
Mm.
If I expect someone to react to something like, for instance, the way I think I would react to it,
Right.
I think I'm pretty laid back, and I want you to be laid back. But you're not necessarily a laid back person, or you react to things differently than I would. Doesn't mean that I'm wrong or you're wrong. You're a unique individual. So I think that helped me personally with being able to just navigate life, right?
Hmm.
So I highly believe in that.
Wow. Well said. So for those folks online, what he says is like, allowing people to be who they are instead of who he expects them to be, and kind of again just believing in the potential of people and who you can be and what you can achieve. And I'm with you on that, man. Yeah. I mean, I think all of us definitely sometimes have expectations. Well, why don't you just do it the way I think you should or whatever? But that's right on. I love it. Okay, somebody else. What do you believe in? Thank you.
One of the things that I got down is integrity.
Mm.
Do straight when no one's watching.
Amen.
Emotional regulation. It's okay to feel your feelings, but just knowing when to step back, take a pause. And grace.
Wow.
Give people grace and also give yourself the same grace that you extend to others.
Wow. Thank you so much. So she said she believes in grace, emotional regulation, and say your first one again. Integrity, yeah. So just like doing, what is right when nobody else is watching. Um, and by the way, for these folks I'm repeating, I'm just saying this so the folks online can hear it because I don't think they can hear you guys. So if I'm not saying what you said correctly, correct me so that way I'm saying the right thing to them. But thank you so much for that. I appreciate that. Yeah. Okay. Anybody else? Yes, ma'am.
I believe in being honest,
Mm,
doing the right thing,
mm-hmm.
doing what is right, and I also believe in helping others. Um, Especially, it started out for something that I really wanted to help my family.
Mm.
But it didn't accept the help. So, but I still believe that my purpose here is to serve and to help.
Wow.
Especially when, some people, they don't know what they don't know what to do. They just don't know.
Hmm.
So, I, want to help them, I want to teach them and show them to become, self-sufficient.
Mm.
And cause, I get that sometimes this is, a one day at a time.
Absolutely.
Okay, but what is the one day, what are all these days gonna lead up to? What is,
Mm.
what are, you know what I'm saying? What
I
do you
do.
wanna see, what do you see yourself in 30 days, 90 days, a month, and things like that.
Wow.
So that's
Thank you very much for sharing that. Folks online, what she just said is that she believes in honesty and doing the right thing and also helping others. And the reason she's here is because she wants to help people and see, help them achieve their goals and not just one day at a time, but what is your long-term goal? Who do you want to be? And that also extends to her family. So thank you for sharing that.
We have a few online as well.
Let's hear them.
I believe in the power of community and empathy.
Mm.
I believe in our ability to create a better world for everyone. That's Claire. And then we have Yone. I believe I was created by God with a purpose. My entire perception of life is tied to Him.
Wonderful.
And His purpose for me to share His love.
Awesome.
And then I believe in my family and friends. My earthly desires and wants are tied to the well-being of them. I believe in the saying, be a better version of yourself than you were yesterday.
Mm.
I also believe helping others and family support is very important.
Wow. Thanks online, you guys, for those comments. I won't read those back since you guys can read them yourselves. But thank you for sharing those with us. We just got to hear those here in person. Thank you. Okay. Anybody else here want to talk about their what they believe in?
I think for me, the biggest one, as it relates to working in this field, empowerment.
Ah, okay. Yeah.
Because if you consistently are doing things for others, as we know in the reenactment triangle, they'll never learn and they'll never venture out and do it on their own.
That's exactly right. Yeah. Thank you. So what Tennille just shared online, folks, is that she believes in empowerment and helping people find their own potential and not just doing everything for them so they can get out of that reenactment that we often see. Okay. Anybody else? Okay. All right. So now, and I purposely did this way because I didn't want you to start thinking about the next one, but until you had some time to think about this one. Now, I want you to flip that paper over and spend some time thinking and talking and journaling or doodling about what makes you angry. What is it that, and I'm not just talking about stuff that like just pisses you off, but like what is it that, is the exact opposite of what you believe in? So if this is what you believe in, this is what inspires you, what is the opposite of that? What hurts you, what makes you angry? What is it that you just don't want to be a part of because it's the exact opposite of your belief system? I'll give you guys a few minutes to do this. You can probably see where this is going at this point, but I'll give you a few minutes, then we'll keep talking about it. So. for me to share that too. So backing up to the positive for a second. It's hard to summarize, but I have it right here. So I don't really talk about this much, but I have what I believe in tattooed on me. So this means live what you promise. And it's just important to me to be a man of my word. The integrity, you talked about that. And just to the best of my ability, just do what I can to do what I say I'm going to do. And this means learn to do good. And so this is actually a verse from the book of Isaiah in the Christian Bible. And it just talks about doing good, rescuing the orphans and widows, stand up for the oppressed, just trying to do the right things. And to me, I believe that is what life should be about, trying to help others. And so I don't do that perfectly because I'm a human being, but I just a few years ago decided I wanted to always have reminders right here. So that's why I have the tattoos that I have. And so that's kind of what I believe in. But anyway, now, y'all tell me what makes you angry. What is it? What's the opposite of what your beliefs? Okay, yeah. Yeah, it's pretty standard, I would say. Yeah, I'd agree with that for sure. I like how you have your ears color-coded, by the way. I was watching you. You got a whole little thing going on there. It's awesome. Yeah, it's good. It's great. That makes sense, yeah. Why is it that we always associate red with negative things? You ever notice that? Red is always kind of like that dangerous or angry color. It's so interesting.
We're related, sort of. I work in some of my teams are technology teams, one of which is a data team, and you learn that it's easy to go to like red, yellow, green for good, warning, and then bad.
Yeah.
But also they do warn about that when you're displaying data that you can be it's very off-putting for people to just immediately see red.
Yeah.
They don't always receive the message or intent.
It's so interesting, like the bias we have built into our minds, right? It almost makes you wonder, what if on like stoplights, red was go instead of green? Would we think about this entirely differently? Probably not, because of course it's not just based on that, but I don't know, it's interesting. What if stop signs were green, you know? I mean. Wow, no kidding, man. That's exactly right. Okay. Wow. It's an awesome tangent, but let's get back on. That's great. Yeah, we could talk all day about this. There's the whole thing about, how red cars get pulled over more by cops. There's this whole thing, so.
Scarlet and gray is like depression color.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
Bad and blue.
I mean, and who decided that blue is like the happy, nice color, I mean.
Blue sounds sad to me.
I mean, I don't know, but it is what it is. So, okay. Anyway, we digress. Folks online are like, "What is going on?" So, all right.
You're on the border.
All right, guys. What makes you angry? Tell me.
Passive-aggressive behavior.
Ooh. Okay. Yeah. All right.
I put invalidation and minimizing of experiences.
Oh man, absolutely. Someone making you feel unseen, like you don't matter. Man, that's huge. Yeah. Man, that's the truth. Seriously. Oof.
Also, lack of empathy, I guess, inconsideration, and then for me, a big thing is lack of humility, right?
Mm.
I think everyone struggles with ego. Everyone has an ego,
Mm.
right?
Yeah.
But an out of control ego just
Sure.
makes me completely wrong, right? When it's like, hey, it's all about me, look at me, and then, you know what I'm saying? And
Mm-hmm.
I guess
It's not all about you.
people, they do things to be altruistic, but they want all the credit. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
if it's, I feel like you can tell when somebody's just genuine and doing something for genuine reasons.
Mm-hmm.
And then when they're doing something and the motivation doesn't necessarily match with the perception.
Sure. Yeah.
Right?
Like doing it just to be seen, essentially. Yeah. Sure. I got you in that. Yeah. Absolutely. Oh, I'm sorry. By the way, online I'm not sharing. People are just saying things like, people being mistreated, being feel unseen or made to not feel right or feel just discarded, lack of integrity, lack of honesty, people who just do things for show, things like that. Sorry. You had something you wanted to share?
Yeah, I was gonna say loss of freedoms.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. Say more. What do you mean when you say that?
Just to constantly live under an expanding government reach, honestly.
Wow.
And
Okay.
so it's slowly impacted our freedoms.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah, I would agree with that. And so what she shared is, just a loss of freedom, expanding government reach, just impacting our day-to-day lives. Yeah. Anybody else?
Ungodly, narcissistic, controlling people.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. Ungodly, narcissistic, and controlling people. Yeah. That's kind of the unholy trinity, isn't it? Yeah, for sure. Oof. Narcissism. Is it interesting though? Like, yeah, and I agree with you 100%. Don't we tend to throw that word around a lot in today's society? Oh man, she's a narcissist. You know, it's kind of like when we call people sociopathic liars. Okay, if someone's a sociopath, like sociopathic liar, you're not going to know because they're good at it. So not everybody's a sociopathic liar, you know. So in fact, very few people are that good. And there aren't that many true narcissists, but we can definitely feel like people act like that, though, right? Because again, they just feel like they're everything. So
Well, everyone I feel is capable of narcissistic behavior.
absolutely, I'd agree with that. Sure, yeah.
I feel like I know a couple true narcissists, right? Like,
Mm.
technically, like, I'm not gonna diagnose them, but
Like it's a
I would bet
personality
my life
disorder.
savings on if they were to go be assessed, they're probably clinically narcissists. And the funny thing I found is they love to call everyone else narcissists.
That's true. And I think we can probably all say on good authority that every one of our exes, they're all narcissists for sure, right? So,
Oh, I'm the narcissist in that, right?
of course you were. Yeah, so was I. Duh. I mean, but yeah, so. Okay, what you got, sir? False gods. Yeah, oof.
Social respons- I think that people who don't take social responsibility,
Mm.
that there are people in our society that are blessed with skills, knowledge, resources that don't take social responsibility with those and how they can make things around them better.
Okay.
Other people, and treating people with the respect and dignity and seeing all people as somebody who's going through driving different things. So to me, that's where I don't like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So what he shared is, just people who aren't socially responsible and don't, show others basic respect, things like that. Is that a good summary of what you said there? Yeah. Anybody else?
Generalizations.
Ooh. Okay.
People or things to just be one thing and not
Mm-hmm.
individual things.
So generalizations, stereotypes, things like that. Absolutely. Yeah. Wow. Yeah. Getting some real talk out here today. I love it.
We do have some online as well.
Let's hear them.
We have ignorance, unwillingness to learn and grow,
Mm-hmm.
individuals who don't help themselves and their behaviors don't change, individuals who won't take accountability for their actions,
Hmm.
injustices and indifferences.
Wow. Okay.
And injustice as well.
Okay. Yeah. So a lot of repeating themes here, and Tennille just read y'all's online comments, by the way, so thanks for sharing those, guys. Yeah, seems like, again, especially because of the work we do, being in the helping professions, a lot of our, angry or dislikes are pretty similar, and that's not surprising, because obviously we're people who want to see other people grow and change and have better lives, and if there are things that are happening to counteract that, especially if that's from an intentional perspective, we don't like that. I would definitely share, mine are very similar to you guys, but I think for me, the two biggest ones, things that make me angry and things that I just really don't like, are dishonesty and disrespect. So really strive to be an honest person, so if someone lies to me, I don't have a lot of patience for that. And then if someone's disrespectful, like it just why? It doesn't cost me anything to be respectful to you and you to me, but people are just like, anyway, we're all disrespectful at times, it happens, we're humans. But I just mean people who are overtly disrespectful to others. That just, ooh, that's when Derek elevates real fast. So, I'm feeling my temperature rising just talking about it right now. So, okay. So that may seem like an interesting exercise I just had you guys do, but there is a point, and we'll get to it after we take a break here in just a minute. But I want you to kind of just start wrapping your mind around and thinking about, you had these things that you believe in, and I'm guessing in some way those probably inspired you to come do the work you do right now. To choose the job you chose, the career path, the education path to put you where you are right now. That's probably in some way tied to what you believe in as a human being. And then also on the opposite side, the things that make you angry, the things that make you upset, you're probably trying to counteract those with the work that you do. When we dive into after the break, this idea of buy-in versus burnout, I'm going to ask you guys to start thinking about, where are you on that scale? Because so often we all start up here, fresh-eyed, ready to go, just let's change the world. But then very easily we can shift over to this perspective, being burned out, being, frustrated, being jaded, being like, okay, God, I can't just deal with this stuff anymore. And so we're going to look at that spectrum, figure out where we are, and then try and use the toolkit to kind of help counteract that. So let's take a 15-minute break, and we'll come back. So. break, I asked you guys to start transitioning your thought process, the idea of where you are in the buy-in/burnout scale. And I'm not going to have you like share that out right now. Maybe here in a little bit, we'll do it in a little bit of a creative way. But just going to kind of start thinking about, where'd it go? Oh wait, that's supposed to be an animated slide. Okay. Pay no attention to what you just saw. I'm going to have you guys like list out, maybe just like different words when you think about the idea of buy-in and burnout. What does that mean? And I have them on the slide, but I don't want to show it to you yet. So let's talk about it first. So buy-in. When you guys think about the idea of buying into something, being bought in, all in for something, what words come to mind? Truth. Okay.
Acceptance.
Okay. Acceptance. Okay. What else? Engagement. Oh, I like that. Okay.
And being honest, saying, what's in it for me?
Okay. No, that's good. I like it. That's true. Forgive my horrible handwriting. Hopefully you can read it. So, what else? What does it mean to be bought in?
Belief.
Ooh. Okay, I like that. Say?
I said that's right up there with truth.
Oh, yes, absolutely, for sure. Okay. Anybody else? Anybody online say anything?
Not yet. I don't know if they heard the question.
Okay. For those online, we're talking about the idea of buy-in and burnout now, so I'm asking people to give, when they think of the term buy-in, what do they think of? So.
Practicing.
Ooh, practice. Okay, practicing. Okay. Commitment. Love it. Somebody else say something? Seeing and doing. Good. Living it. Ooh, there you go. Bringing the sanctuary in. That's very sanctuary of you. Anybody else? Buy-in. Okay. So what about the other side? When you think about burnout, what words come to mind?
Tired.
Tired, stressed. Sorry, say again? Yeah, oh, absolutely, yeah. Fatigued. Fatigued. Keep them coming. It's easy to come up with the negative ones. Why is that? Interesting. Oh, okay. What do you mean when you say that?
From my perspective, the very people you're trying to help victimize the person who's doing the work.
Wow. Okay. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You know, the perspective is, give you an example, I was in a situation, and I was watching some kids on the slide, and I sat at the end of the slide, because I don't have the best back, but I sat at the end of the slide to make sure I could catch a child that was out of control. But one little girl came down the slide, got all the way down the slide, and then she went to walk away, and she tripped over the slide, and she said, she pushed me!
You're like, what?
I catch her, because I was trying, she made it down the slide safe. Okay?
Yeah.
It was, now she's walking away to go back up and get on there again. She pushed me! And I'm just like, girl, I didn't even touch you.
That's funny. That's funny.
They victimize the person
Okay,
that's
yeah.
guarding their safety.
I got you. Yeah.
That's what I was trying to say.
Good example. Good example. What else? Burnout. Resistance. Scattered truth, yeah. Just not be able to find anything, like any focus, yeah. What else? Anything? It's a pretty good list. Okay. So I just wanted to do that real quick, and I'll leave this up as we're going through these different things. We can kind of refer back to the list you guys made as far as, you know, what buy-in looks like, or what burnout looks like. And again, I had a list on here, so these are just kind of the ones that I came up to summarize with it, and a lot of these kind of do definitely fit with a lot of the things you put over there. But when I'm talking about buy-in, I want us to first wrap our mind around this idea of agreement. So if you're buying into something, you're agreeing to be a part of it, whether it's, you know, a job, a family, a friend group, whatever. And if you're participating in something just by virtue of participating, you are agreeing to be a part of that. I would say the opposite of that, you know, thinking about the idea of burnout, is conflict, right? So, and that doesn't necessarily mean like you're like punching people out or starting conflicts, but you are in conflict with the mission of whatever it is that you're doing now. If you're burnt out, you probably are not so much in agreement now anymore. Okay, yeah, I'm still showing up, I'm still punching my clock, I'm doing whatever, but I'm just, you know, it's not jiving as much anymore. And then maybe this idea of passion, and you guys definitely kind of have some words that are close to that over there. Like you're passionate about it, you care about it. This is something you come here and do this because you do care about the mission, whatever it is. And then that's the next one. Opposite of passion, frustration. So I'm just like kind of just done with this now, don't care as much. It's like, okay, whatever. Then of course the mission is, you know, what are you doing? What's the point of this thing that you're bought into? And the opposite of that would be confusion. Why do you guys think I say the opposite of mission is confusion?
No clear direction.
Exactly. Yeah.
The mission, you have a purpose and a focus. When you're confused, listen, the story is, confused people do nothing.
Wow. Real talk right there. Yeah.
If I'm confused, I ain't do nothing.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, this looks like the right way, but that's not, that could be, okay, got a lot of choices here. You do nothing.
Yeah, that's exactly right. So online, what she said, you know, and talking about, you know, confusion is that it's like, you know, directionless, not really doing anything, just kind of like existing. And I think that ties really close into burnout, because I can think of seasons of my life where I was burned out. And in fact, I'll just share with you guys, one time I walked away from the social work field for almost 2 years. I got to a place where I was so burned out, was not taking care of myself, was affecting my family. I went and sold cars and worked at a car wash for 2 years. Like, honest to God, like I forsook my degrees and my training, my education, and just went and like did, you know, just a everyday job for a while. And I'm not saying anything negative about that line of work, but just for me, that was just I had to check out and get away. Thankfully, I found my way back. But that can be what happens. You get confused, frustrated, and you just don't even care anymore. Okay, so then when we're talking about buy-in, this idea of being focused, kind of like opposite of what you're saying. If I'm bought in, I'm focused, I know what I'm doing, I have a purpose, I have direction. Versus being uninterested. Like, okay, yeah, again, I'm gonna show up, I'm gonna do my job, but don't ask me to be motivated, don't ask me to, you know, think outside the box. Just let me, you know, punch my ticket, go home, and then come back and do it over and over and over. This idea of balance versus being overworked. We'll talk about this when we get to self-care plans here towards the end of the training here in a little bit. But if you're bought into something, at least initially, you kind of come in with that good symbiotic balance. Like you kind of just, you're excited, you're ready to go and everything. But if you're not careful, you can eventually shift over to this idea of just being too much, overworked. And I wanted to say about this, and I'm sure you guys experience this too, this can happen very, what's the word I'm looking for? Very subtle, very insidiously. Yeah, like you don't mean to start overworking. In fact, you do it because you care so much. You're like, oh, I care about, you know, the people I'm serving. I care about the programs. And then pretty soon, though, you find that you've given everything to that, and then there is no more balance. It's just all this. And of course, like, you know, hopeful, you're thinking about the idea of growth and change. You buy into something because you have hope in the mission or the program, what it is that's being offered. Versus, you know, once you get to the burnout, you're like, okay, whatever, this doesn't work. All these dumb people, they keep coming in here, they keep just relapsing the same stuff. That doesn't even make a difference. How are we actually helping people? And I don't know if that's ever been you, but I've, you know, being a social worker, a person who believes in the ability of change and growth, I thought, man, what is the point? What am I even doing here? This doesn't make a difference. And that's because I have reached a place of burnout. So And these aren't obviously not the only words and concepts we can add. You guys had a bunch of good ones over there too. But when I was thinking about how to present this to you guys, I just wanted to like kind of present this like, either or type situation, the blue or red, as we were, like we did over there. So now as we move into discussing all the different parts of the toolkit, I just want us to like refer back to this and this list you guys make consistently, because we're talking about staff who are bought in versus burned out and where people might be on that scale. The toolkit is really the one thing that really takes Sanctuary from being the stuff we talk about to be stuff we actually do, right? That's what takes the concepts to actually boots in the ground work. And so I'm sure you guys are doing all these things, but as we go through each one, I just want to call your attention back again and again to these different things over here and to the scale that we've talked about right here. And so if you have staff, if you have members part of your team, folks who you supervise, folks who you work with, and you can think, oh man, I just know that person, they're burnout. I can tell just by this is happening or this or that. Or, people who are just like very focused and very on board. See how you can get them to buy into, with you're just reinvigorating using these tools in every part of your work, because that will help overall the agency, I believe. Okay? So that's kind of our goals we move through this now. It just took us an hour and a half to get there, but hey, I wanted to make sure we had a good foundation. Okay, so the first item in the toolkit is training. Not going to spend a whole lot of time breaking this down because that's what we're doing right now, obviously. That's why you have trainings. Whether you bring in folks like myself from Sanctuary, other people you might bring in to give different cool tools and concepts, your CPI training, and then just the training that you guys do on a regular basis. And training is very interesting because, of course, it's something that you want people to be bought into, but at the same time, it's a requirement, right? You guys will have certain trainings you probably have to do every single year, every few months to be allowed to be able to operate, right? There are certain things you have to do to meet certification standards, and you guys are CARF certified, right? So there's certain things you probably have to do on a consistent basis and document it was done to prove your staff are trained up, right? I saw your eyes get wide. Yeah. Did you guys just get recertified or what? Oh, Lord, okay, yeah. So you got that in March, then us in June? Woo, dang, okay. Yes, no doubt, no doubt. Okay, so that is my question about this then. So as far as Sanctuary, we'll just stick to that because you guys have all the other stuff you're dealing with too. As far as Sanctuary training, how often does training take place and what does that look like here? Okay.
So at orientation, we do all 10 modules. before
Really?
they even step foot into their role.
And how long does that take?
3 days.
Okay.
2 days, I'm sorry.
Dang, 2 days, that's impressive.
So,
Wow,
yeah.
okay. And that happens every 2 weeks? Holy cow, that is impressive, okay.
And then we do like booster trainings. Tennille has really, I feel like, re-kicked this off.
Nice.
In a more consistent manner, where she works with other members of the core team usually, and then we do trainings, lunch and learn trainings that are usually offered virtually for staff to attend.
Awesome.
And they're about an hour long, and I personally feel like those are almost more helpful than the modules because it takes it in these like bite sizes.
I love it, I love it,
You've already
yeah.
had the foundation, so then it's like, okay, I can really learn about this one particular area.
I love it.
A little bit more detail.
Yeah, I love that you're doing that, and I completely agree with that, by the way. One, again, I'm just so impressed that you guys do like orientation 2 days every 2 weeks. Wow, that's awesome. That's impressive. And I will just agree with that. It's so important to make sure when people come on board that they have the initial Sanctuary training. Some agencies, it doesn't look like that just because they can't. Logistically, they can't do that, But the fact that you have that in place is so important because then, as soon as every person is starting their job here, they have the same Sanctuary training. So keep that up, guys. That's phenomenal. And then I also really like that idea of like the bite size. I completely agree. Because let's be honest, all this at once, it's a lot. Like when you do that initial training, that's like drinking from a fire hose. It's like, holy cow, this is so much. And even that can be maybe traumatic or overwhelming to some folks based on where they're coming from and what they're bringing in. So those bite size, lunch and learns, how often do you use that? Once a month maybe? That's great, yeah, just keep doing that. And then I think the other part about training is just like obviously seek feedback. So if there's particular things that people really want training on, give them the opportunity to say, hey, I'd like to have more information about safety plans or about collective disturbance, whatever it is, whatever concept that people really want to learn more about, and then kind of develop those around that. But that sounds like you guys are doing an awesome job, so that's great.
At the end of the lunch and learn, there's a QR code for survey, and
Nice.
that's what it's geared around. What do you want more of? What do you recommend for the next session? So that's kind of where we come up with our topics.
Okay, great. I love it. And then if we tie that back to the idea of buy-in versus burnout, because you're making that a democratic process, because you're involving people, that's going to lead to a lot more, hopefully, buy-in than burnout. Of course, you're going to have folks like, okay, what's the point of this? But then it's not required training. They'll come or they won't, right, if they want to. And so I think just offering that and having that variety is really awesome towards all this. So good job. Perfect. Okay, so yeah, that one was easy. All right, core team. So you told me you have about 20 members of the core team, right? Okay, yeah. So for those who are not part of the core team or don't know what that is, folks online too, the core team, at any organization who's practicing sanctuary, is the group who's really kind of the lead, for implementing, the model, making sure that keeps going. I like to sometimes call them the board of directors of sanctuary. Maybe that's not the right way to say it, but those are the folks who are like I said, kind of leading and guiding that process. And so maybe if someone can just share, if someone's interested in joining the core team, what does that look like here?
Deferring to me again? Yes, okay.
You're the one, Tanil, yeah.
I am, yes.
Yeah.
So if somebody is interested, they can email the core team.
Okay.
And then there is a QR code that they scan and they complete a questionnaire. And it basically has just different requirements at the top to be on the core team.
Okay.
It asks that they're with the agency for at least 3 months before.
Nice. Okay.
So they have their feet wet a little bit.
I love it.
Once they complete that, then I get the results through Microsoft Forms, and then I assign in our learning management system like an informational PowerPoint of what it means to be on the core team.
Dang.
So then when they're done with that, then I send them an invite to come to a meeting.
Okay. Wow.
The other thing, and I don't know if this is Zepf specific or if this is we get this from Sanctuary, but your subcommittees.
Oh, yes, we have subcommittees as well.
Yeah.
So
That's definitely something we encourage, yeah. So if you have folks who are in charge of training or in charge of, kickoff events or in charge of theme of the month, whatever those different kind of things are, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
we've got a training subcommittee, a data subcommittee, communication subcommittee, fun committee.
Ooh, I like that. The fun committee. Okay. Yeah, nice. Man, that sounds fun. I'll be here for the rest of the day, guys. So. Okay, online, they don't know what's going on right now. So I was just asking, about the core team. And so what Tanil shared is that if you're interested in joining the core team, they ask that you've been here at least 3 months. You're kind of like, integrated into the agency. But you can email who?
The core team.
You can email the core team, and you'll receive a QR code. We'll give you essentially an application to fill out, which is just like help them, kind of match you up and feel like if you're a good fit. And then you'll be invited to attend a meeting. So if that's a fair way to say that. So, yeah. And so I'll just say to you guys online, and you guys here too, obviously we want the core team to be a good, diverse group, and we talked about this during core team lunch yesterday. But for the rest of those who weren't there, our encouragement is that it's representative of what your agency looks like. Both like, what the people look like, what the programs look like. So from top to bottom, you want representation. You want folks who are, leadership, executive leadership. You want folks who are, frontline staff. You want people who are auxiliary staff. Everybody from every different part of their agency should have their toe in there in some way. That way there's equal representation. Because what we find out happens is sometimes, like I have an agency right now I'm working with. I mean, this is all well-meaning. This isn't because they're not doing it right. They're just learning as they go. Like you said, you only know what you know. But their entire core team is direct care staff, which is great for that agency. But then they have no representation from like facilities or IT, no from executive leadership. And so the core team is putting all this great program, these great trainings, and everything's happening. But it's not very applicable to the folks who don't work directly with the clients because they're not necessarily thinking about them. So that's why that diversity is so important, to make sure everybody has equal representation, equal voice, and that every part of the agency is being touched. And it sounds like you guys are doing a great job with that, so keep that up. The other thing that we like to suggest, and this definitely helps with the buy-in and burnout piece, is, and you do this how it works for you, but we, at least annually, we encourage core teams just to kind of think about having not a rededication ceremony, but basically just saying like, checking in. Yeah. Like, how's everybody feeling? Do you continue? Are you busy? Has life changed? Because, a year is a long time in life, right? A lot of stuff happens. People have job changes, responsibility changes. And so if you have people commit, for example, to the core team for a year, and it's, every July, you invite new members or however that works. Okay, it's July. Let's talk as a core team. Who's able to stay on, who's able to step off, and that also allows for fresh blood to come on the team too. But you want to keep it a fresh, invigorated group. I jokingly say I call it the board of directors of Sanctuary. I don't know if anybody here ever deals with board of directors or if that's part of your job, but I used to be a CEO of a nonprofit. And board of directors are great unless you have the same people who've been there for 20 or 30 years on the board, because then it's stagnant. It can be very just like rigid, and you definitely do not want your core team to look like that. So and we have agencies that practice in Sanctuary 10, 15 years, like the OGs, and they have people who've been on the core team the whole time, but that's not the entire core team. You want rotating members. And so, again, that was really going to help with keeping things fresh and engaged, because the way we did it 15 years ago is not the way we do it today, and not the way we're going to do it, next year necessarily, right? So just keeping that, new and invigorated group. And the fact that you guys have things like the fund committee, I love it. That's awesome. So that absolutely, I'm sure, helps with, the idea of keeping people bought into things. So.
The other thing that we do is we rotate who facilitates the meetings every 3 months.
Oh, nice. I love that. Okay. Yeah. Awesome. Yes. And think about what you're saying right there too. And what Neil just shared online, folks, is that every 3 months, the responsibility for who runs the meeting is rotated. And talk about the idea of avoiding burnout, right? And I have agencies who maybe they're smaller, or they just don't have the resources or whatever. It's one person who's in charge of everything all the time. And think about by the time a year done is 2 or 3 years, they're exhausted, because y'all know Sanctuary is a lot of work on top of your job. And more than likely, you're not getting paid extra because you're doing Sanctuary, right? I have some agencies that have actually paid Sanctuary positions, but that's pretty rare. So this is volunteer work you're doing. You're working your butt off. And if you're the only one or only 1 or 2 people doing that, you're going to get here real fast. So I love that. That's almost like guaranteed burnout insurance right there. So good job. Awesome. Okay. Anything else about core team? Dang, you guys rock. Okay. All right, so community meeting. That's obviously, our first tool we teach. That's the most foundational one, because that really gets us into talking about, our feelings and asking people for help and building relationship and creating safety and all those things. So we call it the foundational tool. Everybody participates in it, staff, clients, no matter who's doing it. And let me just ask, do you all's clients do community meetings as well here? Okay, I assume so, but just double checking. And like it says there, it provides structure, builds connection, and promotes that healing and recovery that's so important. So we'll actually do one here in a minute, since we didn't do it earlier today. We're going to add a 4th question, which we'll talk about in a second. But you can see here on the slide how we tie each of the questions specifically to one of the commitments. All right? So how are you feeling? And you guys are all trained in this, so this might be a little repetitive. But the idea of asking how someone's feeling is pretty foundational, because when we go through our lives, our everyday life, someone says, "How you doing?" What do we say? Good. I'm fine. Why do we do that? Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. That happens sometimes. You say, "Hey, how you doing?" And you're like, "I'm not doing good." You're just like, you don't know what to do with that. It throws you off. Right.
And sometimes in people's life, situations happen, and we need to be prepared for that happening to our staff. And us checking in is, one, giving them grace, but secondly is there something I can do of, helping that person?
That's exactly right. Yeah, so well said. And again, it's like you said, along with just our social norm, it's to counteract that. Because if all I say all the time is, "Oh, I'm good, I'm fine," maybe I'm trying to avoid a difficult conversation, just trying to get going because I'm busy, whatever it is. But that actually starts sinking in. And when all I do is identify my feelings constantly as good or fine, then I get out of touch with my feelings. So you guys may remember, when you first started this, you have folks who do this the first few times, they're really uncomfortable with it because they're not used to saying, "Oh yeah, I'm not feeling too good today, I'm tired, I'm upset." Or even saying, like we would like to say, "Well, good isn't a feeling. So what does good look like?" That's how we like to phrase that. And people have a hard time, I don't know, because I don't have the words. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree that I don't think people have the words, but I don't even think they have the ability really to be reflective.
Absolutely.
Work through that, so this is really
Sure. Yeah, so even though community is so simple, it actually is really profound and deep for that exact reason. And yeah. Okay, let's hear it. Yes, I love it.
So, when we were first going through sanctuary training, I remember what you're describing,
Okay.
let them move on. And the reason I say that is because we don't know what that person's feeling.
Mm.
And I think that if you push too hard, that in and of itself can be traumatizing.
I would agree.
So,
Yeah.
there are times where even now, most of my staff are pretty good with this and they'll throw out their feelings, but I often catch randomly where staff will just say good, and I just catch this vibe where it's like, okay, let's just move on.
Mm-hmm.
So, and you can always check in with that person later, but I
Exactly.
think to hone in sometimes in a group setting can be more detrimental than helpful.
I actually completely agree with that, and I'm not sure all my colleagues would agree with that, but because like it's all about fidelity to the model. But it's sometimes it's about seeing the forest for the trees, right? If all I'm doing is making sure I don't say good to check a box, then I'm missing the whole point. And obviously, on an ongoing basis, we want people to have actual, feelings, words, and that's why we'll say things. Okay, well, tell me what good feels like, or what does fine mean to you, if that's a consistent thing. But sometimes, yeah, people they're like, it's a blah day. I'm here. I'm okay. And that can be okay. So I really applaud you for that. And again, I want to be careful. We're not giving blanket permission for everybody just to say good all the time, but you have to read the room sometimes. And if you're unable to do that, then you're missing the entire point. So I completely agree, and thank you for sharing that perspective.
Things I try to elaborate on, especially in training, especially when you're doing that tour community meeting. I asked up front,
Mm.
if you cannot express the feeling that you have, can you give us something like a candy bar?
Oh, I love it. I love it. Yeah, yeah.
Put your emotions into that.
I love it. I'll do that with kids all the time too. That's really helpful with kids sometimes. Yeah, like what Disney character is you're feeling today, or something like that. Or what color, things like that. I love it. I completely agree. Yeah. And so yeah, and what that does too, that keeps it fresh and new too. Because again, if we just do the same 3 questions all the time, sometimes you just start becoming automatic. Like, okay, yeah, I'm feeling wonderful. My goal is blah blah. I'm going to ask so and so for help. So you do want to keep it fresh. Again, that's why I'm going to add a bonus question today, just to kind of mix it up a little bit. But those can still tie to the idea of feeling identification. So I love that. Yeah. So yes, like you see here on the screen, obviously how you feeling is tied to emotional intelligence for all the reasons we just discussed. Then you have what is your goal for the day, or your goal for this meeting, or goal for whatever. And again, just like, to kind of train this up a little bit to keep it, to make sure we're staying on track with this, we want to make sure that I'm not necessarily tying my goal specifically to what's happening right now. I mean, if I'm in a team meeting and we're talking about, I don't know, client retention. Yeah, my goal is probably going to be to do something at this meeting, right? But overall, when we're talking about the idea of growth and change, I'm just getting to the point where I can identify a goal. Because just like sometimes people have a hard time identifying feelings, the idea of setting a specific goal can just be this nebulous concept that can be very difficult to do. So it can be tied to what I'm doing right now, or it can just be, and again, this is where you want to offer grace, just like you said. If I'm just having a day, I'm just trying to get home, my goal is just to get home today and rest. Well, that's not about this meeting, okay, but that's what I have to offer today. So again, have the ability to allow people just to have that authentic expression. And then like you said as well, if you need to check in with somebody later, if you see someone just like, yeah, okay, I'm fine, I just want to get home, I'm going to ask, so-and-so for help. You can tell, okay, they might need to check in. And you guys know that's an optional question you can add too. So if me and Neil are having a community meeting, and she says, I'm just really not doing good today, I'm not going to ask her to elaborate right now, because again, this is not a counseling session. This is supposed to be a quick check-in. But what then I can do is say, can I check in with you later? And she has the option to say, yes, I would really appreciate that. Or she can say, no, I'm fine, and I honor that. But here's the thing, and I'm sure you guys have heard this before too, and I hope you train it this way. But if you offer a check-in, be sure you actually follow up. Because when we're talking about trust and relationship building, if someone says, oh, yeah, I'm going to check in with you, and they don't, what does that make you feel like? Yeah, like, oh, wow, okay, whatever. Yeah, exactly. And real talk, I've done that and forgotten before. We're human beings, we forget. But as soon as I remembered, I went back like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. I know I told you I was going to, and I forgot. I apologize. When can we set up some time to get together? So,
Let's do a check-in later.
yeah.
And when, like break time comes, they run.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm like, okay, well, I tried.
Yeah, exactly. And again, so we're all humans, it happens, but the idea of offering the check-in is that follow-up, and that creates that safety in that relationship. So just be sure that you're being socially responsible with that, if you do that, right?
Can I make a comment?
Yeah, of course.
One of like an early experience that I had here my second month here, and I was starting to get burnout already.
Ooh.
But Sam can attest. I'm a people pleaser, and I say yes to everything.
Okay.
That is one of my goals for 2026.
To be a people pleaser?
No. Boundaries. Nope. Not anymore. It's my goal. Boundaries
Love
are
it.
my goal. Yeah, right. But I was in a meeting with a committee, and one of the people in the meeting could tell that something just wasn't right, and that I was on the verge of tears.
Oh.
And, so she had asked, "Do you need a check-in later?" And I said, "No, I'm okay." She called me after the meeting to check in, and I was astounded. Like, wow, somebody cares about how I'm feeling right now in this meeting, and the
Wow.
fact that I'm feeling so overwhelmed. And it helped so much. So
That's
even
powerful.
if people say no, I feel like sending a quick text or a Teams message. Hey, I know you said no, but I'm just checking in. Are you okay? Are you
Absolutely.
okay? And it means the world.
I completely agree to that. I completely agree. And that is taking this from being this like meeting we do to check a box to actually living it out. That's the difference. And I absolutely love that and agree with that. And again, it costs me nothing. Like for me to send a text, say, hey, just checking in on you. How you doing? Are you okay? That doesn't take any time. I mean, we could end up having a conversation, but great. I mean, it's such a cool thing. And again, that's this being lived out. And you're right. It's a small thing that makes a huge difference for people. And then this third question, the same thing. And again, just want to make sure on this. Sometimes we end up tying this to our goal. So we'll say like, who will you ask for help with that, or who you can ask for help? And then my brain says, oh well, if my goal is to get this report done, I guess I'm gonna ask so and so because I need data from them to help me do this report. But that's really not what the third question is supposed to be about. In fact, every different question is completely independent of the other. So when you're asking for somebody for help, again, it's talking about that social learning, that social responsibility, and having that vulnerability. Because like we talked about some yesterday with the group who was here, we don't like to ask for help. We all think we're strong, independent. We don't need anybody. That's the lie we tell ourselves, right? But that's all it is a lie. So, so this is encouraging us to turn that on its head and say, okay, so if I need help today, whether it's with my report or if I just need someone to talk to check in with, that's the person I'm going to go to. And that's the idea behind that question, is that relationship building, that safety building, which is, let's be honest, risky. Because if I say, hey, I'm going to ask you for help later, you're like, yeah, sure. But then I come to you for help and you're too busy or you're not available, that made me feel like, oh my gosh, And that doesn't mean you're wrong or bad, it just meant you got busy. But that's why it's really important, again, there's that give and take piece. So, Cheryl, will you help me? And you'll say, yes, I will, or no, I'm sorry, I can't. It's okay to say no. Yeah, let's go, yeah. But sometimes I feel like people are like, well, I can't say no. Well, actually, you can. Because if I'm already up here as far as emotional and overwhelmed and burned out today, if I agree to help somebody else, that's going to push me even further to the edge. So me being socially responsible, I'm going to say, you know what, Cheryl, I'm sorry. I'm kind of a rough day. Can you ask somebody else instead? And you're going to honor that. You're not going to take that personally. You're like, oh my gosh, Derek doesn't want to help me. You're just going to realize that is me being, practicing this, with honesty as well. And so just as you guys are training this and as you're practicing, to make sure people know, again, the goal or the help is not necessarily tied to the goal. And it's okay to say no if you're not there. So it's okay. Okay, since we have a small group, let's do a community meeting. So everybody stand up. Let's make a circle-ish shape. You can kind of just be where you are, but just like circle it up if we can. So, yeah. Yeah. Okay, then you guys saw I added a fourth question there. So just to kind of make it interesting for today, we'll go through our 3 normal questions. And then the fourth question you want to ask your person is, describe your current level of burnout using a psalm. And you may be able to see, but it says singing optional. So feel free to sing. You're not going to hear me sing because then you'll all leave the room instantly. But it's that bad. But yeah, if you can come up with a song just to share.
Oh, man, okay.
So no pressure. So okay.
I got a perfect song.
For me?
Sam. Yeah. Well, I was going to ask you, but yeah. Yeah. It's okay. How are you feeling today? Confused. Yeah.
Yes, I'm confused. No, I'm feeling excited today.
Okay. And what is your goal today?
My goal is to support Tennille.
Awesome. And if you need help, who are you going to ask?
If I need help, I'm gonna ask my colleague Craig.
All right, awesome. And describe your current level of burnout using a psalm.
I'm not actually burned out, but when you asked this question, I really thought of the song Staying Alive.
Nice.
Just because, I don't know, that's just where my mind went, but that's the best I got.
I love it. Yeah. Get down. Let's go, sister. Come on. Yeah. Yeah. Woo.
Barb, how are you feeling today?
I'm content today.
And what is your goal for the day?
To get as much as I can out of this training. So that I can help better be a part of the board.
And if you need help or support today, you can do it.
I'm gonna ask Derek for help today.
I got you.
And what song best describes your level of burnout?
So it's an old song by Firehouse called "Wind of Change."
Nice. Yeah. She's our DJ over there.
All right, Rob, how you feeling?
Already? I am
He was thinking of his song.
actually feeling kind of frustrated today. No, yes. No, it'll be fine. Just frustrated.
What is your goals for today?
My goal is to learn as much as I can today for the training.
Who do you ask for help?
I will ask Neil for help.
I'll help you out. And do you need to check in with?
No, thank you. But thank you.
And your level of burnout, describe what's your song.
I'm on a highway to hell.
Yes. So is that good or is that bad? That's what I'm trying to figure out. So.
I feel like I've been burned out for a long time, but I mean, I don't think you can completely avoid burnout. And that was exaggeration, though, right? Like I don't think I'm about to crash and burn into HE double hockey sticks, but yeah, just I think the nature of what we do, 24/7 operation.
Yeah.
There's some burnout there.
That's real talk. Yeah. Thanks, man.
Welcome. Sam, you got your song yet? How you feeling today?
I'm feeling just excited and engaged
What's your goal for today?
to continue absorbing information.
Who can help you?
I'm gonna ask Barb if I need help.
I will help you.
Thanks.
What's your burnout song? Or your level of burnout song? Where you're at right now?
It'd be a Pink song, Effing Perfect.
Nice.
I didn't hear what you said.
Effing Perfect by Pink. Hey, I didn't.
Effing is probably not a bad word.
I don't think it's bad. Yeah.
Cheryl, how you feeling?
I am feeling refreshed
What are your goals for the day?
to continue the new year refreshing my sanctuary goals.
Who can you ask for help if you need it?
I am going to ask you, Sam.
I'll help you.
My song.
Yeah, what is your burnout song?
Don't really have a burnout song right now because it's a new year and I'm refreshed. So I think my song is "When You've Been Blessed."
Amen.
Very good.
You're not going to sing that one for us?
When you've been blessed.
Yes.
Sounds good.
Passing on.
Amen.
To Neil,
Yes,
how are you feeling today?
I'm feeling relaxed today.
And what's your goal for our time together?
To take everything in, and I look forward to meeting with Derek this afternoon too, talk about recertification.
And who can you ask for help?
I'm gonna ask Derek today.
I got you.
Thank you.
And your burnout song. You want to hear what I was thinking?
She picked a song for you.
I was thinking your song was, I'm not your superwoman.
Ooh, I like it.
You're the kind of girl you can let down and think that everything is okay.
Okay, Cheryl.
I'm only human.
Girl, I think you're in the wrong role.
That's your 2026 track right there. That's your theme song. That's awesome. I love it.
Thinking of something.
Stress release.
That's awesome.
Sounds great.
I was thinking I'm about to lose my mind. But I don't know who sings it or what song. I don't even know, but that's what came to mind. Not today.
Basket Case by Green Day.
Yes. That was me leading up to the retreat. But I'm good now.
Sweet.
Mm-hmm. Oh, my turn. Gosh. Look at me. Diamond, how are you feeling today?
I'm feeling wonderful.
Awesome.
And what are your goals for our time together?
Learn.
Okay. And who can you ask for support if you need it?
You and Derek.
I gotcha.
And level of burnout, what's your song?
I'm currently not burnout because I'm new.
Nice.
But if I had a song, it wouldn't be necessarily a song, but it's a part of a musical. And she's like, I really don't want to do the work today.
Yeah, I love it. That's good. That's good. Yeah, nice, nice.
That's my
Is that from Wicked?
No, it's
Okay.
not from Wicked. I cannot think of the name of it. I can't think of the name of it right now, but that's my burnout.
That's awesome. And by the way, it can be a positive thing. So if you're not burnt out, you can be a positive song. So yeah, maybe I didn't word that right, but it can be a positive song for sure. Yeah. So.
Great. How are you feeling today?
I feel pretty good today.
And what is your goal for today?
Play catch up and really appreciate these. I actually used something we learned yesterday.
Nice. Sweet, man. Love it.
And who will you ask for help?
I'll ask all of you for help.
Gotcha.
I'm going to go with Harder Than You Think by Full Captain.
Nice.
I think I know that one.
That's OG, man.
Leandria.
How are you feeling today?
I am feeling frustrated.
Are you okay? Did you check in?
No, I'm fine. No, I'm okay. It's not work related, believe it or not.
Still impacts you
The
though.
least of my work.
All right, so what are your goals for today?
My goal for today is just to learn what I can learn and incorporate some of this stuff with my family. With family, yeah.
Yes or no?
I'll ask all of you for help.
I'll help you.
Gotcha.
And what's your current level of burnout?
So, okay, so my burnout song is a song by 2 Chainz.
Nice.
It's I'm Different.
Hmm.
And it pulled this the one lyric, the one line, pull up to the scene with my silly missing. Middle finger.
Nice.
And that's just like I said, it's nothing to do with work, it's my brother. It's my brother, and I say I'm different because both my brother and my sister, they look alike. They look alike. I don't fit in. I'm the light skinned fat one with good hair, so to speak. And so I'm different, and whenever I get around it, so that's the song.
Keeping it real, love.
Yeah, sorry. So that's good.
Love it.
Hello, Craig. How are you feeling today?
You have a kickball team?
And what is your goal?
What? That's so cool.
Today is a heavy training day because after this, I can do a training with the facilitator. So
Nice.
my goal is to get through those trainings and keep on everything.
Okay, who can you ask for help?
Gotcha.
And what is your current level of burnout?
It's the
Using
White
a song.
Snake song, isn't it?
What's that?
Is it the White Snake song?
It's a White Snake song.
I thought it
We
was
go
a-
again. I'm writing 3 grand. I have, that is my, here we go again.
I knew it.
That's awesome. I love how you guys know each other's songs and moods. That's really cool. Like real talk. That just says so much about the relationships in the room. That's really cool. So
Derek's the last one.
you can participate if you want.
And who are you gonna ask for help?
She tried to sneak out of it.
So, bonus question, describe your current level
Oh man, classic. Wow. Man, that's some deep track right there. I love it. Beautiful. Eileen, you want to participate? Okay, okay.
That's how she's feeling. And your goal?
No, yeah. I'm feeling happy, focused. Just to have a great training with you guys and learn something. I'll definitely ask the room today. Thank you. Okay, I have it. Oh wait. Oh yeah, I haven't pulled up my phone, so yeah. See, I was able to cheat on this, so I was ready. So.
You gonna sing it? Or
Oh no, definitely not. I'm pumped up. So. So that's my song. I know, right? I think that's probably why, because I'm seeing it all over the place. Yeah. Keep my kids keep your post-its. I've been playing that the last couple of days. That's what's in my head. Yeah, so it's good. Okay, good job, guys. Well done. So. Yeah, people keep putting it's an AI video. People keep putting themselves into. It's actually kind of funny. So, yeah, it's awesome. But yeah, that song's been in my playlist for 3 days now, so I'm just vibing it. Okay. Good job, guys. So yeah, obviously, you guys do this pretty consistently, but just a great example of what a community meeting can do. Just kind of liven up the room, get people excited, and just real briefly before we move on, this is a good way to check in with the temperature of your team too. So if you have 10 people in a meeting, 7 people say, yeah, I'm kind of today. Maybe adjust your expectations for that meeting or for that day, and that doesn't mean you're just giving people a free pass to not be okay. But if you have some pretty big action items on your list that day that might be potentially overwhelming. Maybe use some emotional intelligence and some social responsibility, and maybe just kind of filter that a little bit, because this is a great way to check the temperature of the room too. So there you go. Okay, and then safety plans is our next one. And I'm just curious, does everybody have a safety plan? Do you have them with you?
On our badges.
Oh, they're on your badges. Okay, great, awesome. Okay, good. Well, I brought extras. If anyone needs one, we can create a new one if you want to, because I brought extras just in case. But obviously, these are about helping us regulate our emotions in the moment, right? And they're not the same thing as self-care plans, which we'll talk about here in a little bit. But the idea behind the safety plan is that it is going to hit every different domain of safety. We talked about this earlier. We've kind of, ad nauseum talked about the different domains of safety the last couple of days. But you should have things on your safety plan. I'm trying to find mine. Mine, also on my badge. That is going to hopefully cover all different aspects of this. Because I could be in a situation where I'm physically safe, but I'm emotionally dysregulated. So I want to have something on this plan that's going to address that. And then if I'm feeling like I need to physically get something out, I want to make sure I have something that's addressing that as well. So a different part of, the safety pyramid, I guess, is what we're going to use there. We want to make sure this is addressed on the safety plan. And then we want to have 5 things, obviously, that you can do to maintain your safety. Always want to include, things that can be done at different times, right? So as an example, I'll just share my safety plan with you guys. And I updated this actually just about 3 months ago, so I'm pretty fresh on this. My first one says 7-minute timeout. And so for me, that means I just need to take a break, and it's 7 minutes. For some people, 1 minute, 3 minutes, 10 minutes, that's the kind of break they need. 7 minutes, I've realized over just a lot of therapy and time in my life, that 7 minutes is my sweet spot. So that's what I use for when I just need to take a break. Next, I have get physical with a bunch of exclamation points behind it. For some people, they may think that I'm trying to fight somebody or something. For me, that means it's time to go work out, time to go do a run, do something like physical activity, just kind of get everything out, do the endorphins. That's part of my daily plan. I did it every single day. Then I have media. So for me, if I can go watch a movie, watch some reels, watch YouTube, play a video game for a few minutes, that can just kind of help me reset and get out of my head whatever's going on with me. Then I have mindfulness. I'm a practitioner of yoga, Tai Chi, and things like that, so that's always on my plan. And then I have seek knowledge. And this is going to help me for the nerd that I am, but I love Wikipedia. If I can fall down the Wikipedia rabbit hole, I'm just in my happy place. So those are my safety plan items. And these are things that work for Derek, so they're not going to be anybody else's plan. And so when you guys are creating these things, and when you're training people and have them create them, make sure they're things you actually use. I actually use and do each of these things usually on a daily basis. If I had go walk my dog, I don't even have a dog. I used to, I don't anymore. But if I had that on here, but I never walked my dog, that would not be an effective part of my safety plan, right? So make sure these are things that people actually use and actually do, and that you can do them in different situations. That's the other part of this, like you guys can see there on the screen. So for example, I'm not going to get physical in the middle of a meeting. If I'm sitting in a meeting and start to feel dysregulated, I'm not going to get and do a bunch of push-ups. That might be kind of weird. I can, though, quietly sit there and do some breathing techniques that I know that's not going to disrupt the meeting. People may not even know I'm doing that, but I'm practicing my safety plan in the moment. So stuff you can do by yourself, stuff you can do with other people, you know, a part of a group thing, like I can go work out with somebody, go on a run with somebody, that's something I can do with another person. And then things that are, you know, situational. If it's a quiet time, you know, you can be loud, whatever. You want to make sure there's a variety there. And obviously, since you guys know this because you actually carry yours with you, but some agencies, they don't have their safety plans with them. They don't carry them with them, and that kind of defeats the purpose. Because people are like, oh, I know my safety plan, I don't need to carry it. Okay, but it's just like, you know, some of the other things. If you don't physically have it, you just don't use it. So that's the point of making sure that it's physical on your person at all times. And it sets the example for the other staff and the clients also, right? So that's kind of the idea. And then, like it says there on the last point there, this can be a good thing to share with like your safe people. You have a therapist, whatever, fine. But I know a lot of people, they'll share it with their coworker friends. So, like, you know, if you have a friend who, like, you know, chocolate's in their safety plan, you know they're having a bad day, just go hand them a piece of chocolate. Like, they don't even have to, like, know that is part of it. Like, I see it happening right here. So, yeah, so you guys know. So when you know people and have the relationships like you guys clearly do, I saw that in the community meeting, then this is a great way just to continue to build that relationship and trust. When you know what helps people, what makes them feel better, then that's just, like, an easy thing to do to help folks. So such a cool tool that's really fun and easy and really helpful for all the reasons we already talked about, right? I'm just curious if anybody else wants to share their safety plan and what's on it. No, it is not required, but if anybody would like to, I'd love to hear what people have. Thank you.
I have pray, box breathing, listening to music, go for a walk, and
What was the second one? Box breathing?
yeah,
What is that?
I know these are
Oh, right. Yeah. Okay, yeah, that's awesome. I love that. Very cool. Thank you. All right. Anybody else want to share? If you want to share your safety plan. You look like you're ready. You have it held up. So.
I know, my issue is, so like, we write them down and then over time they kind of wipe off.
They do, that's true.
So,
Those cards with you guys, that's a thing. There's something about the
so then
tactile.
it's
Yeah.
like I need to like
Okay.
rethink about it, but I know some of the things I do is like take a breath, go for a walk, look at pictures of my daughter,
Nice.
stuff like that.
Awesome. Very good.
Yeah.
That's smart, yeah. And
I also like believe that they change over time.
that's true, yeah.
So it's just
No, yeah, and if I didn't already say that, let me say it again, or say it for the first time. Yeah, this is something that should be a living, breathing document. This is not my same safety plan. I told you I changed mine 3 months ago, and so I try to update mine every 3 months. That's kind of my goal. Sometimes I forget, but I mean, you want to keep it fresh because maybe things that a year ago I used on there, I may not use as frequently. So if it's not something you're not doing, then it's just kind of a waste of your time. So make sure you guys are encouraging your staff and everybody else too to update those on a consistent basis. And like I shared with the supervisors group yesterday, if you're ever in supervision with somebody, that is a great time to check in on a safety plan. How's it going? Are you using it? And just like, if not, let's rewrite it. Very easy, quick and easy. Anybody else?
I mean, I have mine as well. Is 5 deep breaths is the first thing. Second thing is to take a walk.
Mm.
Building to just kind of calm myself. 3 is to go talk to somebody.
Nice.
Kind of get an intervention, I suppose, and then listen to music if it gets to that point. And then those are the major 4. I can't remember what number 5 was, but that's my Joe and my safety.
Awesome. I love it. Thank you for sharing that. Appreciate that. I was going to tell you guys.
I'll tell you probably what I do a lot is reflect on the positive things that you do every day.
Nice.
The impact, and remembering those things kind of helps. Okay, I can get through this.
Well said. I like that. Yeah, that mindfulness piece, that's huge. And that's on a lot of people's plan too, yeah. I was going to tell you guys, one of my coworkers, one of my co-trainers, she's from Puerto Rico. And so one part of her safety plan is, I can't remember how she has it worded, but she likes to cuss in Spanish. Because and I'm sure plenty of people speak Spanish, but she kind of does it under her breath, and a lot of people don't understand her, so that's kind of her thing. She just get it out, and she's like, you see her with the court, you're like, oh, okay, I know what she's doing. She's using her safety plan, so it's really funny, So literally, it can be anything, and and you can like funny, silly stuff, but if it works for you, that's the point, right? And then again, if we tie this back to the idea of buying and burnout, this is foundational, right? This is one of the foundational, easy tools you can use literally any time if you're starting to feel not just overall burnout, right, but in a burnout moment. Because all those moments of frustration and difficulty, that's what builds up to being on the right side of that. And of course, none of us are insulated from it perfectly. It happens as part of the job, like he was saying. But if we can use those momentary interventions to kind of help just re-regulate, that's going to stop us from getting to that place of like serious burnout and like vicarious trauma and those different things that we talk about in the trainings, right? So the safety plan is absolutely foundational with that. So don't underestimate the power of that. And just encourage you guys in all your different teams, the different people you work with, supervise, whatever, just make sure that people are using this and keeping this consistent. Because it can easily become something that just attached to my badge and I never even think about it anymore, right? But this is a tool we literally carry with us. And so it's, along with community meeting, the easiest and most consistent tool we have. So don't forget about them. Anything else on safety plans? Okay. We good online? Anybody else throwing stuff out there? Okay. They're done. Okay. And then we have our psych ed groups. And so this is obviously when we offer the training to the clients. And I'm just curious about how's that work here for you guys? How does psych ed work?
Psychoeducation.
Yeah.
Just recently purchased 3 manuals.
Right, yeah. And a lot of those aren't geared to adults. That's the thing. A lot of those are geared to kids. So yeah, that's where we're trying to shore up at Sanctuary a little bit. So
I'm going to defer to any clinical people.
Well, are we talking about psychoeducation, how we're implementing?
yeah, how do you guys do it here? Yeah.
I think it's like really prevalent in like groups.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I was gonna talk about.
Yeah, go ahead.
Because I am an SUG case
Mm-hmm.
manager, and we do referrals to clients for group.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes, when they come in through residential and all that, they've already been assigned group. We encourage them to continue and to participate.
Nice.
There are some clients that I have that need some mental health talk therapy.
Mm-hmm.
And we do referrals for that too.
Okay. I'm just curious. So along with psych ed, like, do the clients get like some kind of introduction or training in Sanctuary too? Okay, good. All right, good. Yeah, because obviously that's the point, of the psych ed groups, just to do that in a creative way.
Yeah, and
So.
I can't speak to the actual intervention delivery because I am not a direct care staff.
Mm-hmm.
But I will tell you from the technology side, when we went through Sanctuary, and actually our first time of being certified, one of the things that we worked on to, I guess, better proof, because like you said, it's not written down and it has to,
Right.
this was actually being delivered during groups, is we had to morph our group templates within our electronic health record to kind of guide the staff in, okay, Sanctuary interventions were used, if yes, what were the tools that were discussed or used within the group?
Mm-hmm.
And they have section to elaborate on that. So
Awesome. Very good. Yeah.
that's what I can contribute from.
No, thank you. Yeah. And as far as like documentation stuff, and I'll show you this later when we're talking, but like the implementation manual in the back has different forms for every different possible tool and stuff. And so it has examples of ways that you can document and talk about that. So I'll show you that later to prep for the recertification. But yeah, anytime. Yeah.
Fatherhood program, they start every year.
Nice. Yeah.
They also try to help the fathers, how they can use that community meeting with their kids.
Mm-hmm.
And to just check in with the kids, because sometimes parents don't check in.
No, that's absolutely right. Yeah.
And the other thing that I think they're really talking about is they weave it in the safety plan and then the self-care plan of
Awesome.
that they need to be healthy as a father. Here's some things you can do.
Yeah, that's great. That's perfect. I love to hear that. And again, that's taking what we taught you and living that out in creative and effective ways. That's what I love to see. And I always like to say too, and of course you guys are much further along than an agency that I'm just starting with, for example. But when I'm starting with new agencies, I like to say to them, these tools are not meant to replace what you do. Because sometimes people think, oh, we're throwing out all we do and we're starting new. No, these things are meant to augment what you are already doing well. And so just you keep that same mindset for you guys too as you move forward. If you have something that's great and is already trauma-informed, you don't have to throw it out just to make it sanctuary. Just, see how it can marry and walk alongside what sanctuary does. That's kind of the goal of this. Otherwise, we're kind of missing the point, like I said earlier. But yeah, so obviously it's tied to all those different commitments that you saw on the screen there. And then, just like you guys kind of said, we would definitely want to encourage start with a community meeting, depending on the length of the group. And of course, this is obviously very agency specific, so maybe yours are 10, 15, 30, 60, whatever. But we want the groups to be, a good time frame. This third point is one I really like to always point out. Anyone can run a sanctuary psychoeducation group. It doesn't necessarily have to be the clinician. And maybe here for you guys, that's how it's structured, and that's how it is, and that's fine. But based on the agency and on the situation and the type of group, maybe you can have a client help run it. Maybe you can have, a non-frontline staff member. If there's someone like, again, you're talking about a father's group back there, sir. So if someone has just great experience with that and passionate about that, bring them in to help run and be a part of that kind of group. Because that's what makes these things real. Because I can sit here and talk to you all day about, well, here's what sanctuary is and blah, blah, blah. But if I have some kind of shared life experience with you, that's where the connection is going to take place, right? So that's what we're looking for, is those shared connections. And maybe you do this as part of your therapy groups, and that's okay, but we always like to differentiate and say, just like community meeting is not supposed to be like a therapy session, psychoeducation should not be that as well, unless that's specifically part of the way you structure them on purpose. And then, of course, you always want to have some kind of takeaway, whether it's a new tool or concept, or what did I learn from this? And I'm a big fan of film. I'm a big movie guy. And so I always like to use film clips when I'm doing psychoeducation, whether that's with adults, kids, whoever, because, movies just talk to us. You can show something, and so, okay, what did you guys get out of this? And then people will just, they'll just spill it out. That's just the power of that medium. And so, as an example, we're going to watch a really brief clip right here, and then we'll talk about it as if we were a psych ed group. So give me just a second. I need to pull this up on her screen.
That's one of the manuals that we did purchase, is the one learning.
The film curriculum. Oh yeah, and by the way, I am currently in process of revamping Sanctuary's entire psych ed film curriculum, because I'm the big movie guy, so I'm knee deep in it right now, but it's going to come out, I don't want to say soon, but soonish, and it's going to be great. So look forward to that. Because the one we have is good, it's just kind of old and needs some new movies in it. Okay, I'm about to show you guys a clip. This is from the show This Is Us. I don't know if you're aware of this show. It's absolutely amazing. You'll need a box of tissues every episode. But it's just a show that was on NBC a few years ago, and just about this family, the three kids, and it's there's a bunch of flash forwards and flashbacks. That's how they tell the story. But the parents of this family are a couple named Jack and Rebecca. And so we're about to see a clip where Jack is going to talk to his daughter Katie about something he's been struggling with, and we'll kind of go from there. So I hope the volume is good. We're about to find out. Can you guys hear that? No, it's up there too? I'm only hearing it over here.
I wonder if you can turn the volume up or remote.
Okay, let me see. There. Okay.
Yeah, it was really.
You guys could hear it up there though? Okay, good. All right. There it is. Okay. Hope it's not too loud now. Can you hear it?
Yeah. So you guys are okay? The queen admitted you back into her castle?
Kate, you need to be nicer to your mother, okay? We don't know everything. Fact. I'm gonna talk to your brothers too, but I wanted to talk to you first. Something I need to tell you. Or the reason your mom and I have a fight. Kid grew up. I have a drinking problem. And my father, he had a drinking problem. And I've kept that hidden from you guys because I didn't want you to know that about me. I really didn't want you to know that about me. But you have to know.
Oh, like I said, gosh, can't even get through a clip. Oh, I think I lost the PowerPoint. Hold on, I'll find it. Give me a second. There it is. It's back. Okay. So obviously that is, what, a 3-minute clip. Very powerful scene between a father and his daughter as he's admitting to an addiction, issue that he might be having. I'm guessing some of your clients might really identify with something like that. And so if you are choosing to show video clips, just make sure they're relevant to your group. So like I said, a lot of our psych ed curriculum is unfortunately built directly towards kids because that's where, like when Sanctuary first started, is mainly working with agencies with kids. Of course, that's not always the case for you guys and others. And so make sure that the content you're using, if you're trying to drive up a point with a video clip or some kind of activity, it's relevant to the group. That's the only encouragement. Because otherwise, it can be something that may not be very meaningful to them, and they'll just kind of say, okay, what am I supposed to get out of this, right? So, and again, tying it back to the idea of buy-in and burnout, just getting these takeaways, these concepts that we can learn through film and through other different discussion groups and things you guys do, that can be really helpful, not just for the clients, but for the staff also. Because I can't tell you how many groups I participated in when I was leading or just being an observer, and as meant for the clients, I came away thinking, man, that really got me going and thinking about that. So as much as possible, keeping these fresh and varied will really help with the idea of the burnout. So, any thoughts or questions on psych ed? Okay. All right. Let me speed up. I'm going a little slow. We only have a few minutes left. Okay, so self-service planning. This is the idea of taking self, obviously, and inserting it into the way you guys do service planning. Every place calls it something different. A plan of service, a service plan. What do you guys call it here? Like your client's progress treatment plan? Yeah, sure. Yeah, yeah. Right. Yeah, something like that. So I'm just curious, how have you guys implemented that into your work here? Is self a part of that for you guys? Okay, it's supposed to be.
I say that, I don't know, I mean, it should be, but clinically.
Yeah, it's sometimes, I've been doing, case management now for just a little bit over a year now.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm learning that to do the self, thing is service planning. Cause a lot of times when we meet with clients, they just want to take them somewhere and
Sure.
not even looking at their, service plan. So then when we do the note,
Excuse me.
how do we, and so, I, hey, there's a lot to figure out with smart care and all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So
Is that y'all's online system, I'm assuming, Smart Care? Yeah.
So
Right.
I'm learning to, tap in at least something off the service plan and the goals or objective, to the client. So
Good.
now I try to, just take a peek, at the
Mhm.
service plan before I go pick them up or meet with them, just to see what, needs to be worked on or improved.
Sure.
Instead of, as a matter of fact, I just decided in 2026, if you have Medcap or a bus pass in which we provide you, then that's how you get, that's the whole purpose of it. That's how you get to your appointment.
Right.
Unless it's a dire emergency, or a little last minute thing, then I'll come get you. But you can get Medcap and bring me here to your appointment.
Yeah.
Or, or I give you a 31-day bus pass or grant. I don't know what that grant is through that, the women, SUV clients, or, matter of fact, I think any woman can get it. There's a little thing you gotta fill out, and she has kids history, whatever, so.
Okay. Thank you for sharing that. So online folks, she was just sharing that by using the client's ISP, she's trying to implement just goals and things like that to kind of keep them more focused and on track, especially with transportation and things like that. So yeah, obviously the goal, and this is definitely something that the certifiers will be looking for, so maybe you guys are looking at that documentation over the next few months, it's just that self is a part of that ISP process. And again, with online systems, that can be challenging because sometimes those online systems are very rigid and strict and maybe don't allow for that. But that's where you may want to work with IT and see if we can add a button where we can add self or something like that. But just as a reminder, self, safety, emotions, loss, future, that's that kind of goal setting, that progress, moving through any kind of particular problem or challenge issue. So it can really marry really well with this idea of client service plans. Every agency does it different, so I don't have a script way to tell you this is how it should be done. but definitely just try to make sure that is a part of it. And again, we tie this back to the idea of burnout for clients, especially for the population you guys work with. I'm sure the idea of, again, like staying on track can be a challenge sometimes and having, consistency. Yes, sir.
So I don't think we're using the Zepf as part of the service plan. I think we need a tool that can train people how to do it.
Okay.
Service plans have always been an issue over my 29 years that I deal with our accrediting bodies.
Okay.
Is they're not ever good enough. We do plans, but I think if we would have a way to work with people to say, here's how you can do a good treatment plan.
Yeah.
Using self as a process.
Mm.
I think when I think of, what Cheryl said yesterday of setting the future as the first thing is, what do you envision? What do you want?
Right.
Because that's really about where it starts of setting goals for the future. And from our treatment, what do you want?
Mm-hmm.
And then just taking them through that. I think if there's a tool out there that you have or some guidance, I think that would be helpful.
Yeah.
Because service planning is always one more difficult thing you have to train people on.
I appreciate you sharing that. And let me just say, to encourage you, you're not alone in that. That's not, a Zepf Center issue. Most agencies, regardless of the client base, whether it's kids, adults, people in recovery, addiction, whatever, service plan is kind of that one tool or that one thing that's kind of hard to how do we integrate this? Not just like with the sanctuary, but just kind of like, with your accrediting bodies. And every different accrediting body wants it done a little bit differently too, right? Of course. So that's the challenge as well. And so it can be crazy making for sure.
I have something to add.
Yes.
Not necessarily self or service planning, but I was thinking about this, is Hannah on the board too? No? Okay, well, we have a director who oversees, adult therapy services.
Okay.
And we worked with her, my technology team worked with her, I'm pretty sure she was the contact, but we developed a safety plan.
Okay.
That is really in line with developing a standard safety plan.
Okay.
Part of the
I love it. Yeah.
client's clinical records. I think that's what I was thinking of.
Okay, that's great. Yeah, and that's wonderful too. Of course, we want clients to have something like that too. And as far as answering your question, as far as an idea for this, obviously we don't have the time right now. But and Tennille, you and I can talk about this here in a little bit. But my suggestion off the top of my head would be maybe make this one of those lunch and learns, or if it's an agency-wide thing that you really feel like you need to shore up before certification, maybe have a specific training and maybe involve the clinical team and folks who are going to have that expertise from the service planning side, and then kind of just develop how can we add self into this and what's that going to look like, and that won't be obviously a one-step process. It'll take some time. But yeah, just maybe an intentional training with a collaboration with the folks who are actually doing the service planning, because that way they're the ones who are going to be able to give us, okay, this will work or this won't. Because so often we're trying to add tools, we're just going to add this in and do this. But then people are like, well, this doesn't make sense and we can't. And that's why service planning can be so difficult from a licensing perspective. So I would suggest partnering with, your lead of the clinical team or whatever that looks like to kind of just maybe organically build something, then you can have that in that way. So it'll take time, but that's a good start. Yes.
I was just gonna piggyback off that. I think the lunch and learn would be good, but I think.
Yeah. Maybe a little more than that, but that's gonna be a good start.
A good start.
Yeah.
And I think it'd be a good start to draw connections of what we are doing
Mm-hmm.
in treatment planning, because I feel like there's a lot of things of self that we are doing in treatment planning. It's just not
be documented. Exactly. Exactly. And I appreciate you saying that, because sometimes agencies will say things like, well, we're doing it, we just don't call it that, or it's not being written down that way. Well, that's great, because again, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. But just figure out a way to be able to show the sanctuary certifiers, hey, we are doing this, but this is more what this looks like. And I think that's good. So, right. Exactly. That's perfect. Thank you for sharing that. That's great. Yeah.
That's what I was gonna ask, because I'm just gonna tell you right now, if this comes your way, we can't modify our template per se, but.
Right.
So I think we're gonna have to be creative. I don't know how we're gonna lay it out that we are using self, without necessarily calling out specific sections, so.
Yeah. And so maybe again, it's going to be a collaboration between you guys who are planning it, the clinical team, and the tech team to make sure we may not be able to add a tab for that, because sometimes again these online platforms are very stringent and very fixed.
Those pieces are.
Yeah. You can't modify those. Yeah. So, And I know that's frustrating for you guys too, because people are like, hey, can we add this? You're like, no, we can't. I'm sure you get that all the time.
Do a lot.
Yeah.
Those like staple clinical pieces are usually, the vendors usually lock those down, so.
Yeah, you're right. Absolutely. But yeah, so again, just we'll talk about this more later, and of course we can continue to email and phone call about it too, for sure. But oh, do you have something else?
I think it's not changing, modifying smart grades. How do you train staff to be?
Well said. I would agree. Yeah.
I don't think it's you just have to show the process of, here's how I start with, what are your goals? So what's the future?
Agreed.
Okay? And then you start looking at loss. What am I going to change that I'm going to grieve my loss? Like, if I'm using drugs, I'm going to lose my friends that I hang out with.
Yeah. Your support system, which is probably not a good one. Yeah.
The euphoria of the drug.
Mm-hmm.
And then what are also then the emotions that are, so, and then the safety ended up with this. So I think if you train people to think in that process, that creates a clinical intervention to get you a plan done, you could use people. At least that's all.
No, I completely agree, and that's a great example of a very organic way to use that in the middle of the treatment, or anything like that. That's absolutely right. And and when the certifiers come, that's what they're going to be looking for. Just how is this organically woven into the fabric of your organization? Of course, they'd like to see self written down somewhere, and like that being pretty formal. But again, it's about checking a box or about actually using it. So figuring out a way that it's actually being used as part of that system, and like you said, and probably in some ways it probably already is. It just not necessarily being called that. So over the next few months, just something to think about and work with the team on that. But it's totally doable. So.
We do have standing ISP trainings that
Nice.
case managers does.
Perfect place to throw this in. Yeah, that's great. Yeah.
Her to and make sure that that's being communicated, and
Look at that.
it's a 3-hour training once a month, I believe.
Holy cow. Wow. Yeah.
Is it today? It's next week. Next week.
And you guys have a lot of training. I love that. That's really impressive. Like, seriously.
I'm glad you love it.
She's our lead over all the training.
Yeah. I'm sure not everybody loves it as much as you do sometimes, but hey, that's how you make an organization run, is keep everybody trained up. So, yeah.
It is what it is.
Just make it fun, right? So, okay, so yeah, so this definitely sounds like something maybe to like to work on. You and I talk about this more, but it's a good thing we talked about it. But this is definitely one of the most difficult ones, because again, it's so agency specific. A lot of these others, like, we're going to tell everybody to do a community meeting the same way. Everybody's going to make the safety plans the same way. I can't tell you guys to make self the way that my agency who works with veterans in New York does it, or my agency in Iowa who works with disturbed children. It's different based on that specific agency. So that's why this one's a little bit more of a challenge. But it sounds like you have some good stuff in place to figure it out. Okay, supervision coaching, we talked about that yesterday, so I'm literally going to show you the slide and move on. But again, just quickly from a burnout perspective, we talked about this quite a bit yesterday with the supervision group. It's so vitally important to make sure that you have that regular and consistent supervision, whether you're receiving that or offering that to those folks who you supervise. And the tie into like people being bought into your mission, if they feel supported by you as their boss, they're going to be more bought in. If they don't, they're going to be much more vulnerable to burnout, to not know how to do their job, being frustrated, all the different things we listed and talked about. So almost more than any other tool, I'd say supervision and coaching is absolutely foundational to helping avoid that. So, and then if you want more about that, there's no live stream from that yesterday, but you will get the PowerPoint. I'm going to share that with Neil, so you can review that if you want more information on that and weren't here for that part yesterday. Okay, team meeting. Wow, we're running out of time. Okay, so this is really just the idea, again, of taking what you do and just enhance it with Sanctuary. I'm sure you guys have meetings all the time, like with your teams, your groups, whatever different it is. Just making sure that the Sanctuary concepts are part of that. So we're talking about things like community meeting, making sure there's agenda sharing, using the different commitments as part of that. And I had an activity we're going to do with this, but we're out of time, so we're not going to do it. But what I was going to do actually is have you guys go through a word study of the word accountable, and then see how accountability can play into the idea of team meeting. And you're go back to the idea of social responsibility, social learning, and democracy, because accountability is a big piece of those different, commitments, and just making sure that that is something that's consistent across the board. So without having time to do the activity, that's my encouragement to you, is just as you guys, look at your team meetings and again prepare for certification, make sure the documentation's in place. Just think about, how the model's holding your meetings accountable to, practicing trauma-informed practice, even in something as mundane as a team meeting. Because sometimes people are like, well, why does this matter? Of course we have team meetings. Well, you want your meetings to be trauma-informed just like you want your service plans to be informed, just like you want every other part of your organization to be trauma-informed. So that's the idea. Okay, and so again, I was going to have you guys do this exercise where we come up all the different words that are accountable, and then we're going to talk about, well, wow, these are all so negative. Why is it always negative? Then we're going to put a positive spin on it. But we don't have time, so. But yeah, keep your accountability positive. That's the idea. Okay, now it's not working anymore. There it is. Okay, 2 tools left and 5 minutes. So, all right. So red flag meetings. I'll just ask, do you guys use this tool here? Is it pretty consistently used? Raised flag? Oh, I love that. I love that. That's awesome. I love, again, this is again about knowing it and actually doing it. So hats off to you guys. I personally don't like the term red flag because, again, the whole red thing. And so I love that you called it something else. I have an agency in Alaska, of all places. They call it an SOS meeting, seeking out solutions. I just love that. Yeah. So I love seeing agencies take this and change the name to make it more, relevant to you guys. So, yeah. Yeah, you can steal it from them. I won't tell. So no, but of course, this is meant to be for those emergency situations that cannot wait, right? This is essentially an emergency self. That's how I like to describe this. And since you guys practice this, you know how they work. The important thing is, again, just to make sure that everyone who is involved in the situation is a part of that meeting, if at all possible. Sometimes we can, even with our best intentions, end up having red flags about somebody. We don't want to do that. If it's at all possible for them to be there, unless it's a sincere safety issue, not just because I don't like them and don't want them there, that's not a safety issue. That's a personality issue. So if there is, if there's any reason that they can't be there, that needs to be clearly documented. But otherwise, yeah, everyone should be a part of that meeting. The other thing I will add is just making sure that you have people, if appropriate and possible, a part of the meeting who may not be emotionally invested. So if you're having a situation where people are having a conflict, things aren't going right, sometimes bringing in a third party to that meeting who has no skin in the game can actually be the best person in that meeting because they're not going to have that emotional involvement, and they can see things clearly and they can come up with a solution nobody else in the room can think of because everybody's got too hot-headed, if that makes sense. Yes. So be creative in bringing those folks in, right? And then you guys, again, probably already know this, but just quickly to review, you want to make sure you have your facilitator, the person who's in charge, setting the agenda, all that different stuff, doing the invites, your note taker, and we also like to call that person the task minder, just to make sure everybody stays on task. Because sometimes when you're doing these meetings, people can start griping, and then it can be, just become a free-for-all. So you want your note taker / task minder to make sure there's keeping people on task. And the same thing with timekeeper, because you'll also remember that we want to follow the 25-50-25 rule. Does anybody remember what that is? That's it? Exactly, that's right, yeah. So what you said for the folks online, 25 to state the problem, 50% of your time to work on solutions, and 25 to prepare for follow-up. And that's on purpose, because obviously we want to spend twice the time on the solution than we do on the problem or on the follow-up. So making sure that that's a part of that. Of course, self is kind of the guideline for those meetings. And then if possible, you also want to use, talk about reenactments as a part of that, because more often than not, there's some type of reenactment that's a part of that. That's why we're having this situation. Whether that's, an issue between, people, whether it's, let me think. I have an agency in Louisville, Kentucky. They had a red flag over their hospital, and the AC went down. Actually, they lost power, and part of that was losing the AC. And this is a place where some people are on ventilators, and this is a life-saving thing. And their facilities guys stepped up, were able to get everything going, but there was just a lot of chaos behind it. So they had a red flag about that. And everybody was like, the facilities guy was feeling incredibly persecuted because they were like, well, you got to get this fixed, get this running, get the AC back up. And he's like, I'm doing all I can. And so, of course, the situation got fixed, but afterwards there had to be some relationship repair because he was feeling very persecuted by people. So more often than not, there's going to be some kind of reenactment that's a part of the red flag, so be sure you identify that as well. Okay, I know I'm going fast, but we're about out of time. Anything else on red flags? And again, just make sure this is one of the things you have those booster trainings on periodically so people are aware of it, but otherwise you're good. Okay, and then the last thing is our self-care. I was actually going to have you guys make a self-care plan, but this can be your homework now because we're out of time. So, but just very briefly, obviously the idea behind self-care is that we have a balanced self-care plan that helps us on an ongoing basis. We talked about this some yesterday, but self-care is not the same thing as safety plan. That's the one part of this that's animated, really? Okay. Why not? Safety plans, as we discussed a few minutes ago, are for right now. If I'm feeling dysregulated in the moment, these are the things that I can do, like, as a part, of my day that can help me just kind of like take the temperature down. Versus a self-care plan is stuff that I do on a consistent basis, usually outside of work to make sure I don't hit this burnout. And again, along with the tool we talked about a couple minutes ago, as far as like, I'm going blank. Why am I going blank? What did I say a couple minutes ago was the one that's like so good, so important for not being burned out? Was I talking about safety plans? Sorry, guys, I'm going blank. Okay, yeah, well, someone online remembers, maybe, I don't know. So yeah, anyway, I'm a professional trainer, guys, by the way, in case you can't tell. Safety plans and self-care plans are two of the most foundational for burnout. Because again, safety plans are going to help me while I'm at work to do what I need to do to not be just totally like, frazzled. And then my self-care plan, that's what I do to keep an identity. Because like we said at the beginning, so often what happens when you get people to the place of burnout, they are literally, they don't have an identity or anything outside their job anymore. Everything they do is about their work. If their family life suffers, their hobbies, their interests, they have nothing else. And is dedication to your work good? Yes, but not to the extent that you lose yourself. So the self-care plan is going to help you with that. That's the goal. So again, I know we're out of time, sorry. So you have your self-care plan sheet there that I give you guys. Feel free to work on that and create one. You probably already have one. If you don't, make sure that everybody is creating those because that is a part of the sanctuary training. And that's what the certifiers are going to look for. But make sure you have that and keep that updated along with your safety plans. During supervision and coaching, that's a great time to check out people's self-care, make sure that's updated and current and actually being used. Okay. Wow, that last part was really fast. Okay, that's what it has all those different domains. Like you can see there in your thing, you can write the different areas that you want to have self-care. So I want to make sure I'm physically taking care of myself, emotionally, all those different things. And that is it because we're out of time. So thank you guys, appreciate it. There you go. We should do the feedback. So ignore the last 5 minutes in your review.